Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the newest instalment of the MFW podcast. But it's a special edition today, whether you're watching on YouTube or you're listening on Spotify. It's going to be our table predictions for the new season that begins in 6 days' time. I'm Freddie Humphrey Wakefield, and I'm joined by Jack Wright, Will Grant, and Matthew Saunders. There's no Henry Miller. He went to watch some old band reunion at Nathan Redmond's playground. So we'll get right into it in just a second. But before we do, how has everyone been? It's been a long time since we all sat down and had a talk with one another.
Yeah,
rush.
my chair. Yeah, I'm all well, mate. I'm just buzzing to be back for the new season. Hopefully, it isn't another campaign of mid-table yellows, but yeah, overall, I'm excited to be back. The cobwebs are all dusted off, and I'm ready to go. How about all you guys?
Yeah, I'm not doing too bad. Thank you, Freddie and Will. I'm not doing too bad. Excited for a new season. Went to the friendly yesterday. Quite excited. We get in the playoffs. Bosh.
Well, you've spoiled your prediction slightly there, Matthew. But
I might not have predicted them to get playoffs. I might be saying that as a Red Robin. Red herring. That's the one.
herring, yeah. Aside from birds and fish, I'm fine. I've just been collecting lots of bookmarks in pre-season. It just seems like everyone's really positive. All of our signings are going to be fantastic. Our goalkeeper isn't going to concede a goal. So yeah, and also everyone seems to be an expert on the Danish league. And the Czech league and every other obscure league. So more the merrier for me.
And it's also worth noting we should probably talk about the Portuguese league, because as we're recording this, within the last 20 minutes, Mirko Topic has been announced as a Norwich player signed from Famalicão. You can watch the video that Matthew did about it. It was actually our last video. So go and watch it and learn a bit more about the deal. And you can learn all about every other Norwich signing. I think they've made 10 now, with an 11th due in, I can't remember the Lincoln player's name, Makama, can't remember his first name, but he was at Carrow Road, had a Moncler puffer on in 20-degree weather. I like it. But anyway, let's move on into our table prediction. And much like we have done with last year and our reaction to last year's ones, you can watch them as well if you really want. We will begin at 24th place. So we've got all 4 of our predictions and Henry's as well. And straight from the off, we nearly all agree with one another. In 24th, me, Will, Jack and Matthew, we've all gone with Sheffield Wednesday. Can you blame us? But Henry has gone with Hull City, which I find a bit strange. But I guess I'll start. I'm the one talking. So why have I put Sheffield Wednesday in rock bottom? Well, how can you not? They've only got 10 senior players available. Danny Roll has left them. The name of their new manager is escaping me, but he's got a very poor win record in the Norwegian Premier League. And they've got no money. They've got no players. They're not even going to have their North Stand, which is their main standing, the main stand for all the diehard Sheffield Wednesday fans. They're in a really dire situation. And we've seen this story before, when you only have a handful of first-team players and you have to play all your youth and everyone leaves, the ship continues to sink. So I fully expect Sheffield Wednesday rock bottom, but as do the 3 lads sat with me here.
Yeah, I just think, as you said perfectly there, Freddie, they just seem doomed, don't they, really? Obviously, the first-team player situation isn't ideal whatsoever as well, but there might be a scenario potentially where we might see potentially, if they get new owners, maybe like in January, they might go for like quite a big spending overhaul potentially then, but it just feels so unlikely right now. And I think what I've noticed, especially whilst doing my predictions anyway, is that this league just gets so competitive, especially towards the top end and the bottom end as well. And it just feels like they are so undercut right
now. Yeah, I'll keep mine short and sweet because I've only really got one thing to really add on, and that's Chansiri out.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, I think in these situations, it's very easy to kind of point the finger and laugh and kind of, look at the chaos going on in the football club. But, if this were to happen to Norwich, we would all be not only devastated, but furious. And this is not a fun situation at all. But again, the writing is on the wall. Henrik Pedersen is his name, but I think he was Danny Royle's assistant. I've got it written down. I'm not an expert. I had to look it up earlier. But Barry Bannon signed a new contract, so that's possibly the only bit of positivity that Wednesday have got this season. I mean, is there any chance of them not finishing bottom? It's going to be a stretch, and if they do even stay up, it will be some sort of a miracle. But I mean, Will was saying, takeover possible. What is also possible is maybe points deductions. So that could also be a huge swinging factor in where they finish. But for me, bottom.
Yeah, and if they want to take over, Chansiri wants 200 million for the club. So no, it's I think we've all summed it up perfectly. It's a horrible scenario. No club ever wants to be in it, but Sheffield Wednesday are. But we'll move on to 23rd position. I actually would have loved to have known why Henry thinks Hull are going to finish bottom. It's a shame he's not here. But no, we'll move on to who we all predict to finish in 23rd. So I have gone with newly promoted Charlton Athletic. Henry went with Sheffield Wednesday. Will has gone with Queen's Park Rangers. Jack has gone with Oxford. And Matthew has gone with Hull City. So why do I think Charlton are finishing 23rd? Because I don't think they're good enough. I think of all the promoted teams and compared to the other sides who will be in and around them in relegation battle, I don't think they've got enough quality in them to stay in the division. In fact, I think all my 3 relegation predicted teams, I think they're actually all nailed on in my eyes. I really can't see any of the teams outside of my bottom 3. We'll go on to 22nd, of course, after this, but I think Charlton for me are really nailed on. Of course, they'll have some good games and they'll get a good atmosphere at the Valley back in England's second tier after a long time out. But I really don't think that they've got it in them at all to stay in this division. The squad compared to other teams that, as I mentioned earlier, will be around them, it's just not as good. But we'll move on to the next man in Will Grant. And Will, why have you gone with Queen's Park Rangers?
Yeah, it was quite a risky one, I think, from me here. But I think with me, especially for QPR, is having watched them last season, and I was never really kind of enthralled by them, really. They did have some moments when I thought they looked quite a decent attacking unit and defensive unit at times, especially during that home run, especially like towards, I think it was towards Christmas time as well. So, but I think why I'm not overly convinced on them this year, I think their goalkeeper situation is quite weak as well. Obviously, they've got Paul Nardi as their first choice, and they've also got, I believe, it's Joe Welsh there as well. And they're 2 goalkeepers where I'm not overly convinced they'll probably cut it at this level next season. Then you've got as well a back four, which is quite interesting. Although Jimmy Dunn's a very, very good player for this level, and I'm sure he'll definitely help them out as well as a new signing called Mbengwe as well. They've got some good players there. I'm just not really convinced how they can be a good cohesive unit, especially under a new manager as well. Obviously, they've signed Poku as well from Peterborough, and they've also got the likes of Ilias Chair and Dembele as well, and they are good players. But it just feels like, especially with those 2 players, it feels like they've got so much talent, but it just never really feels like it kind of clicks for them overall across a 46 game season. So I'm just not convinced. I think there's players as well coming towards the latter stages of their career as well. I'm thinking the likes of Sam Field as well, and obviously Steve Cook as well. And I just think maybe there's better teams out there who are maybe a bit more athletic and a bit more nimble in terms of being able to be quite a dangerous side in attack. But yeah, I'm just not convinced, especially that this is all going to click for them this season. Obviously, it may well do. I really am fond of how QPR run as a club. I think they do some really, really good stuff. But I'm just not really convinced that their squad has the ability to try and ride it out over a 46 campaign season. I think, especially on the road last season as well, they looked very, very flat, and it took quite a lot of real gritty results to try and see them out. But yeah, I'm just not convinced they have enough proven firepower, and I think it's got quite a weak defence and midfield as well for me.
So I went with Hull to finish 23rd. I feel like should be, in my head at least, a fairly solid prediction. They had a poor season last year, and in my eyes, I just don't think they've really strengthened in a way that they should have. They sacked Ruben Selles, I believe, end of last season, if I remember correctly, because they sacked 2 managers at the end of seasons for no reason. But it feels like they haven't really strengthened with their signings. I mean, there's one or two, Sammy Ajay, which I think is a decent signing. Ryan Giles. Oh no, sorry, he was on loan. I believe anyway. I'm like got a screen on me now. It's just but they've got a few. They got a few. They got one or two, but I don't feel like they've strengthened enough to really improve on last season's position. And I think as well it goes even higher because I feel like, and I mentioned this just a second ago with them sacking managers needlessly. It feels like Hull are starting to become a very unstable club, a bit like Watford. And I'm not saying they're going to be the next Watford or whatever, but in my eyes, it doesn't feel like a good way to run a club. And I think it's really going to come back and bite them, especially with a new manager, Sergei Jakirovic.
Sounds good to me, mate.
But who's going to have a lot to prove. He spent a lot of his time in the sort of eastern part of Europe, Balkans, managing clubs there. It feels like it's a big sort of jump to go from teams in that area to then all of a sudden Championship and a team like Hull who really need a good season. And I feel like there's going to be a lot of cracks in the Hull squad. And I feel like even the squad from last year just wasn't really good enough. And I can't really see them finishing anywhere higher, in all in complete honesty.
Fair enough. Well, I went for Oxford. You always sort of think of second season syndrome as sort of a Premier League phenomenon, but I'm going for this to be the downfall of Oxford. There was a time where Gary Rowett was regarded as one of the more sort of coveted managers in the Championship and was really sort of hot property. Now he's sort of gone, a little bit off the boil. They haven't really made that many notable signings this summer. I think that's just owing to the size of the club that they are. They've got 3 stands. If they can't afford a 4th stand, then they can't afford to truly compete in the Championship. They did finish the season in pretty good form. They obviously finished 17th last campaign. Decent finish when everyone thought that they would really, really struggle. I think it will come back to bite them. I think the sort of buoyancy of the first season in the Championship sort of saw it through for them. I think this campaign will be too much for them.
Yeah, it may well be. But we'll move on to 22nd, the final relegation spot. I've gone with Hull City, as has Will. Henry went with Oxford. Jack, I think rather surprisingly, has gone with Wrexham, and Matthew has gone with Charlton Athletic. So me and Matthew think the same 3 teams are going to go down, but our order is changed. So why have I gone with Hull in 22nd? Well, they've got a better team than what Charlton do, but they can't make signings. They've got a 3 transfer window ban, and their team really isn't that great, hence why they ended up really struggling and were nearly relegated last season. If it weren't for Ruben Selles, they'd be a League One team right now, and maybe they would have opened the season against Luton last on wherever it was, on Friday night rather, just gone. But no, I do think that they're much like Sheffield Wednesday. They're in a really dire situation in terms of finances and how much they're struggling. Not really to the extent Sheffield Wednesday have, but I just can't see a world where Hull City stay in this league. They may well end up doing it, and I have to eat a slice of humble pie. But no, and like I said just a moment ago with Charlton, I think those 3 teams I've put to go down, they're the same as Matthew. I think Hull, Charlton, and Sheffield Wednesday are doomed this season, and I can't see anyone else being around there. But let's go into the next teams. Let's go into Will. And Will, you gone with Hull City as well?
Yeah, mate, I agree with all you said there, mate. I just want to add as well with Hull, it feels like every year now, especially in a championship, teams which don't really have very, very functional kind of hierarchy, especially at the top end of the clubs across the league, it just feels like the players and managers suffer from that. And I just think that Dorona Akon Ilichai, I think he's made too many bad mistakes, and I think it's going to cost them majorly. Add to that as well, they've got some long-term injuries as well, the likes of Balumi and Liam Miller as well. Both of those guys were players which came to Hull with quite a lot of, obviously, backing, and they had really good campaigns elsewhere before they came to Hull. So those guys, I think, are still out with like ACL injuries as well. So it just feels like if Hull are going to catch fire, it might be towards the end of the season, and I just think they might be a bit too late. And I just think all the mistakes as well, which made in terms of managers and stuff like that, I just think this year it just doesn't really look good for them at all.
Charlton, for me, first of all, let's talk about Nathan Jones. I'm not too convinced about him in this league. And, I know there's a lot of discourse about people just not liking him just because he's Nathan Jones, which I understand. But in terms of managerial ability, he's never really done anything for me. He had that bit of time with Southampton in the Prem and he looked he didn't look he looked awful. And, when he's been in the Championship, I've just never really been that convinced about him, to be perfectly honest. And I think when you look at the signings as well, I mean, Charlie Kelman is, as your statement signing, is a very good signing for Charlton. I think he'll be a good statement signing. But then after that, it's sort of like, you're signing Thomas Kaminski from Luton, who's just suffered a double relegation. It's like, really? That's who you want in this league? The guy who's just been relegated with Luton from this league? It's like, it doesn't make sense to me. And I think their squad as well isn't the greatest. I do think it could have a job, or could do a job if they had a good transfer window, but I don't feel like it's been sufficient enough. And if there is one of my predictions that I would not be disappointed with getting wrong, it would be Charlton, because I really do want them to stay in the league, but I can't really see them doing much this season.
Yeah. Oh no, Jack's predicted Magic Wrexham to go to. Oh no, he can't. They've got to do brilliantly, and they've got to get promoted again. No, they are a pretty good League Two team and an average League One team. They are. I am not inspired by this team at all, and I think, like Icarus and his wings going towards the sun, I feel like Wrexham have been too successful too quickly. And I think Phil Parkinson is not a championship quality manager. I feel like if they start to buckle come November, the Hollywood owners or whatever will sort of panic and probably bring in Wayne Rooney. It's just, and the signings as well, they don't inspire me. Ryan Hardy, Connor Cody, it feels like they're wasting a lot of money, and I can't really see a star in this Wrexham side. I can't really see one player who's going to stand out. Like what, they've still got players like Ollie Palmer, and I am not buying this narrative that they are, going to be one of these big boys, really pushing for the playoffs. I think this will be one of the first times in many seasons where Wrexham fans will not enjoy it. Do I think I'll be wrong? No. I think they'll be in a scrap, and I think it might come down to the final day. But I will happily back that Wrexham will go down.
Well, we'll see where the rest of us have put them, but no one else has got Wrexham to go down. But we'll move on to 21st. Funny, we talk about Wrexham. That's where Matthew has put Wrexham. Jack has gone with Stoke City. Will's gone with Oxford, as have I. Henry went with Preston North End. So why have I gone with Oxford to just about stay up? I think because they've got a better team than the three who I predict to go down. It's as simple as that. They've got a fair, good bit of championship talent, as proven last season. Took 4 points off Norwich, so they can compete with good sides. And at home, they were a very strong outfit. It is a shame that Des Buckingham did lose his job over the course of the season, but they picked up and they finished strong and they stayed up. I think they will do it again, but I think the quality in and around them compared to last year has gotten better, and the promoted sides, albeit apart from Charlton, in my viewpoint, are better than them. So I still expect them to stay in the division, but really that's just because, two teams have got financial misfortunes, and I just don't think Charlton are good enough. So it's as simple as that from me. But let's go to Will to build on that, really.
Yep. Yes, mate. Another one which we both match on again, really. And I think for me with Oxford, I think the best thing which they've done was trying to keep that core group of players, which did so well for them last season. I'm speaking about the likes of Kieran Brown, Michael Hellick, and then obviously you go into midfield as well. When you look at the likes of Brannigan and obviously Rodriguez as well. And I think those guys really gave a real good core to Oxford and really tried to ensure that they were a very, very reliable unit across the whole season as well. Big up as well to Jamie Cumming as well. I think he had a very, very good year for Oxford as well. So I think the thing with Oxford, which I might worry about slightly, is their attacking depth. I do like Tyler Goodrum on the right hand side for them. I think he's a really good player, but I would be a bit concerned for them, especially if they do get a few injuries. Obviously, Mark Harris, Blaheta, those are players kind of in this level for me, especially Anton Bradshaw, where on their day they could be okay, but it just feels like it kind of still does feel like for me they need a bit more help in attacking areas. But yeah, overall for me, I think they should be okay. And obviously the manager as well, Gary Rowett's a very, very good one for this league. So I think they'll be okay, but it'll be tight for Oxford. But I think they'll just have enough.
Wrexham. See, I feel like this is sort of. I said this about Charlton, and I feel like it's the opposite. Where when I look at their squad, I think, okay, it can do okay in this league. And definitely not like top table as most people think it is. Probably not even anywhere near mid-table, but can definitely survive. But then you look at the transfers. I mean, I look at their squad. Jack Marriott, J. Rodriguez, decent. James McLean, he's going to be interesting. Andy Cannon. And I sort of look at it and go, okay, maybe that'll do a job. And then I look at their signings. Lewis O'Brien for Forest. Okay, yeah, decent start. But if you are signing Connor Cody and Danny Ward, I feel like you should get liquidated, and Wrexham Football Club should never be able to compete ever again. Because those two are the words I could say about them is, oh my God. It's Dumb and Dumber. It's Dumb and Dumber. I watched a lot of Leicester last season. Watching those two play is Dumb and Dumber. And I hated every minute of it. And I've got mates who are Leicester fans who would put bounties on their heads, let's just say. But, I do think, I mean, apart from that, it's okay. Josh Windass, I think, is a good pickup. Hardy's okay. Maybe a bit unproven, but he's, he can. I can see him doing stuff for Wrexham, but it's going to be very close with them, especially if they get with Danny Ward as a goalkeeper. But I think they'll pip it within the final 3 game weeks, is what I think, over Charlton.
Don't worry, Matthew. I know a good therapist. Yeah, Stoke. They could slip into the bottom 3 comfortably as well. And I think I see Mark Robbins as possibly being one of the first managers to be sacked this season, just by virtue of Stoke being Stoke. I think I even touched on this in my prediction from last season, is that this is a former Premier League side in a downward spiral. When I watched them play at Carrow Road, they really just folded quite easily, weren't a match for us at all. Looking at their signings, what their statement signings are, Aaron Cresswell and Sorba Thomas. It's kind of, it's not filling me with much joy. Devan Mbama from Man City, he looks like he could be decent. But yeah, again, this is a chaotic football club that is going in one direction, and it's not towards Wembley.
No, I think that's. I definitely think they won't be going to Wembley whatsoever. But no, we'll move on to 20th as we keep climbing up through the table. And again, me and Will have matched. We've gone with Preston North End. Matthew has gone with Oxford. Jack, he's gone with Hull to stay up, which none of the rest of us three thought. Not even Henry thought that. And he went with Queen's Park Rangers in 20th. But me for Preston, I finished 20th last season. They've not really improved. They haven't got any worse. I can't see them going down because they are stronger than majority of the teams who will be in that sort of scrap. But I think they'll still be in it because they're not great by any means of the imagination. This is a team who sacked 2 managers after 2 games last season. So, it says a lot. They still have Paul Heckingbottom in charge, who's a good manager at this level, but he managed a Sheffield United team that got promoted, I think, twice under him. So no, I just, he's not got the tools really that he needs to make Preston a better force. But no, I think they'll just have another year of lower table mediocrity, and ultimately that, to use the cliche, they're just too good to go down. But what does my mate Will think?
Freddie, I promise you, mate, I'm not copying your homework here, but yeah, I think with Preston, it's going to be very interesting. Obviously, Preston, they had quite a lot of player turnover, obviously, during the summer as well, which is obviously quite interesting, actually, because I always think with Preston, one of their main strengths is probably like that strong midfield core. But obviously, they decided to obviously keep a few players, but also leave a few as well out of their kind of team for this season. I'm not overly convinced by their forwards options. I think Osmarich is okay. Whether he should actually be playing football still, I won't talk about that. But who knows? I think teams can try and play well against Preston. I just don't think the issue I have with Preston, I think, is that it feels like to me they need a bit more investment into their club, and it just feels like that isn't the case for them right now. They've also got the likes of Jefferson up front as well, the striker from Bournemouth, which I'm a bit cautious and wary of for them as well. That could be quite a tough year for them. But look, I think with Preston, they've got quite a good manager for this level as well, and I think that will definitely help them as well. They'll play in a similar 3-back structure as well, and hopefully that can see them past the finishing line. But it could be quite a tough one, I think, for them. But hopefully, similar to Oxford, they've still got quite a few important players at the club as well, and I think that should be enough to keep them away from relegation.
I think Oxford at this point are one of those teams where it's sort of too good to go down, but not good enough to do anything else, really. I mean, I remember last year everyone thought they were going to be the team to go down, and they actually done all right considering. Didn't lose to us. But I feel like it has they have an okay squad there. It's nothing you'd write home about, nothing special. Their transfers as well. You got that Brian de Kirchmaker as well from the Belgian defensive mid. But apart from that, there's not really anyone. I mean, Luke Harris from Fulham on loan, maybe, but there's nothing really that would get me excited for it. Obviously, I'm not an Oxford fan, so I wouldn't know. But there's nothing there which I can really say, yeah, I think Oxford are going to do really well this season. And, they do have Gary Rowett, which he is a very good manager for this league, I think. And he's very good for teams in that sort of lower half, because I feel like, actually, I'm not going to say that because I might jinx them. Because I was going to say, I'll say it because why not? I was going to say that he's that type of manager. He's like the Sam Allardyce type of manager. You get him in and you won't be relegated. So Oxford, if you do go down the season, I'd like to apologise now. But I feel like they're in a fairly solid position to not really do much, but not be in massive contention to go down. Maybe one or two times during the season where there'll be real panic, but I think ultimately, we might see another relegation battle that goes up to like 15th or whatever. I don't know, but I think Oxford are fairly stable for now in that sort of lower table but surviving kind of space. So nothing out of the ordinary, I suppose I'd say, for Oxford.
Yeah, and I think I was the only person who predicted that Hull wouldn't go down. I think it's just mostly on the basis of kind of the core of players that they kind of managed to retain so far. Pandora in goal is pretty decent. Regan Slater in midfield, pretty decent. The likes of Cody Drama, Ryan Giles, if he still plays. There are quality championship level players in there. Jakirovic, it feels like he's on a kind of season one save of FIFA where he's just going through all the free agents and just being like, yeah, I love you, I love you, I love you. Lundstrom, yeah, I love you. Ajayi, yeah, are you good? I don't know. Just come on board. Come on. Brandon Williams, all right. Just don't drive here, please. Just walk. Yeah. I think, Hull, it will be a struggle. But I think, again, like I said, decent core. Will Jakirovic be here at the end of the season? Don't be daft. They'll probably go and appoint someone like, I don't know, Tom Cleverley. They'll poach him from Plymouth or something, do something ridiculous. But again, they very much could still go down, obviously, like Freddie said, with their transfer embargo. But there are plenty more free agents out there, Hull, so the world's your oyster.
Yeah, no, it's very true. No, but we'll have to see how they get on over the course of the season, of course, with everyone else. But we'll keep going on through our predictions. We'll go into 19th, where three of us have gone with the same team, but I'm not one of them. I've gone with Swansea City in 19th. Henry, Will, and Jack have all gone with Charlton Athletic. Matthew has gone with Stoke City. But why have I gone with Swansea? Again, sort of similar reason to why I went with Preston and Oxford, really. They're a decent enough team. They've got some good quality players in there. Of course, have lost Harry Darling, who is deemed to be one of the best centre-halves on the ball in this league. And he's come to a team who likes singing about being on the ball. So, no, we'll take that very, very happily. But, no, I don't think Swansea are all that good of a team. That they have been since Premier League relegation. Apart from that 1 year they got in the playoffs, they've just been very subpar. And again, they're going to probably continue to be that because, arguably their best player has been poached off them. But no, they still have good talent. But compared to everyone else, it's just, again, they haven't got enough.
Yeah, I went for Charlton. And actually, to be fair, I'm probably one of Nathan Jones's actual admirers. I think the way how he can build a football club is actually quite impressive, to be honest. As well as that, as well with Charlton, I think they spent close to £10 million this window as well, which is quite crazy actually for a newly promoted club from League One. Sorry, so that's really impressive. I do like Charlie Kelman and as well Harvey Nibbs. The only question I do have about those guys is that whether they can step up. I think more so with Kalman actually is that he's only had one real good season, and then all of a sudden he's now got a obviously promotion to the Championship as well. So look, we'll see how that goes, but I'm not overly sure if he could deliver the goods for them. But I think generally what Nathan Jones is so good at is playing a team to his strengths. He knows who he needs to kind of build around, and he knows how to coach a very, very good kind of defensive based side. And I think as well, they've got some real good tricky wingers or like kind of more attacking wide players who can play more centrally as well, which is very, very handy. I think the way how Charlton are probably going to be successful this year is trying to utilize those real quick and agile attacking players. So I think Charlton have got a decent foundation, and I think they'll just be okay to survive. Obviously, they have poached some of Luton's players as well, which might be quite interesting to see how those guys get on. But I generally kind of, similar to what I said last year, really, about Blackburn and John Eustace, I just feel confident, I think, in Nathan Jones, that I think, although he can be full on at times, and that is obviously, people like that, people don't, but I think he's got a real deep character, and I think he's very, very effective at getting kind of messages across to his team, and I think they'll be all right this season, and they'll finish in 19th.
Stoke 19th, the vibes in it. Nah. I mean, Stoke, again, similar to Oxford, they're one of those teams that are too good to go down, but not really good enough to go anywhere else. And I think the only real reason I put them over Oxford because I think they've had a much better transfer window, bringing in the likes of Aaron Cresswell, Maxim Tolerov. I don't know how to say his name, but the fullback from Plymouth, got the assist in the game against Man City. We all know him. We all love him, if you know he exists. But I do think they've had as well as that, they've got one or two others who I'm not too sure of, but from what I have heard of them and the very limited I've seen of them, they do seem to be decent acquisitions. Hence, so that's really the only real reason why I've put them above Oxford. But I think their starting squad is okay, nothing too special again. And I do think, and I know I said when I was talking about Oxford that we could have a relegation battle up to 15th that we've seen in the past however many seasons. But I do think if there's going to be a gap between teams that are battling relegation and then teams that are just in lower mid-table, I feel like it's going to be here between 19th and 18th because I don't really feel like anyone above this, above Stoke, is really going to be in too much trouble this season. I could very well be wrong, and I always like a good relegation battle. I'm a huge enjoyer of it. But realistically, from where I'm stood now, before the season, it's just sort of like I think all the other teams that are going to be in lower mid-table just too good for the teams around here. And so yeah, Stoke 19th for me.
Yeah, I disagree with some of the calls that say Charlton will be down. Like we've all said, I really rate the signing of Charlie Kelman. I think most Championship clubs would want to sign him. I actually like the signing of Rankin Costello and Amari Bell as well. Not the best Championship quality players, but still with experience in the division. Nathan Jones, again, a bit of a Marmite manager, but ultimately when he was at Luton, he was, fantastically successful with them. So there's obviously blueprints there. I think Charlton have picked a good season to come up with a lot of teams in and around them in much more chaos than them. They're not dead cert. There are teams that have prepared far worse than them. And I think, it's been a long time coming for what is a very big Southeast London club. I think they will survive. I think they'll be in the scrap. I think ultimately, good signings for the first team, but maybe their downfall will be that strength in depth at Championship level that's perhaps lacking. But again, if they can just steer clear of the chaos, then I think they'll be fine.
No, that's a very good point to make. But we move on to 18th as we climb up the lower mid-table. I've gone with Queen's Park Rangers. Henry has gone with Leicester City, newly relegated. He thinks they will crash down the table. Will's gone with Blackburn Rovers. Jack and Matthew have gone with Preston North End. Why have I gone with QPR? So, again, I feel like some of the players they have got are very, very talented. Will mentioned a few earlier, especially I love the signing of Jeremy Poku, I think, or Kwame Poku. So I've got no idea why I said Jeremy. No, his name is Kwame. Sorry, you have to excuse me. But no, I think he's a fantastic player. He's a player who Norwich were linked with and I thought should have signed at the time. And I've watched him play for Peterborough on numerous occasions and I've always been very impressed. So, no, they've got a lot of good talent. And then you have Dembele on the other side who, he was playing for Celtic when he was, 15 or 16? You've got to be pretty good to end up playing for them and still be a decent player in the Championship. And of course, they have lost Martí Cifuentes, but I still think that they will have enough. They've got a good enough team, and they've got some good youngsters in there. Even Ryan Colley, who Norwich fans will remember, the afro-haired striker who hadn't scored in his whole career. And then he scored at Loftus Road against Norwich in that 3-0 drubbing. And he got dog's abuse at Carrow Road. But no, I think QPR have got a good amount of talent for where they are currently. And I think, they'll stay up and they won't really be in danger the majority of the season of going to League One.
Yeah, so I did go for Blackburn, obviously in 18th place. And to be honest, I was actually thinking maybe I might go lower for them, to be honest. But I think what maybe probably pushed me more towards them to be more okay and more low mid-table was I really like their midfield kind of combination between Lewis Travis and Sondre Tronstad. I think both of those guys together are a real underrated pairing at this level as well. And at times as well, you've got a bit of flair from obviously Todd Cantwell as well. I think he showed that last season as well to obviously some extent. I just think with Blackburn, I think they've got some real good players for this division. I just think they probably need to still recruit and maybe add a few more. Obviously, there are some problems with their ownership right now. And obviously, I don't know how that will kind of impact their budgets. But obviously, losing the likes of Costello and obviously it looks like as well, Callum Britton as well to Barrow is going to be a big blow. But I just think Blackburn always find a way to kind of to kind of produce in this level, and I think that'll be the similar case again. Really, they've got a decent kind of value there of core players as well, as literally I just mentioned there as well. So I think they'll be okay. Valerian Ismail, I think he's also, I think for me especially, I think if you were to ask Barnsley fans, they would say, he's so good, he's brilliant. But then again, if you were to ask Watford fans, I think they would probably say the complete opposite. So look, I just think with Blackburn, I think there's some good players there that should keep them afloat, but I'm not really kind of too excited by their team at the minute.
Well, these lot had a stinker last year, didn't they? I think most people predicted them to finish mid-table, and they just didn't. They were poor for most of the season, and they've lost a good amount of their top players. Freddie Woodman being one of the big ones, Emil Reese as well. And I think from what I was hearing from that side, it was sort of a bit of a worry. But I do think they've replaced a lot of their key players really well. They've replaced Freddie Woodman with Daniel Iverson and so on and so forth. And I do think that with these replacements, you might go, yeah, okay, they're not like Freddie Woodman or Emil Reese or whoever else, but they'll do a job, and I think they will. And I think slowly and surely, there's a good chance that we might see Preston climb up the table within the next 2, 3, 4 seasons and slowly sort of make their way back to even just being a mid-table team and sort of getting away from this lower mid-table sort of relegation scrappers that we're sort of starting to get to know them as. But I feel like their squad is fairly strong for where they are in the lower mid-table, and I don't really see them doing or like having to fight for much this season. I feel like if they're going to get any success, it will be on a cup run. But let's be honest, it's Preston, and it's just sort of going to be another sort of boring Preston season, if you will.
Yeah, I echo a lot of what Matthew said in terms of the quality of plays that they've kind of relinquished. Obviously, a 20th place finish last season. No team finished lower in the form table than Preston at the end of last season. Not even Norwich were in worse form than Preston. Obviously, form is temporary. A very, very shaky end to the campaign. And again, just a team that, has never had oodles of cash, has never splashed out on amazing star players, but a team that just sort of plodded along in the Championship. I think this is possibly the highest that I can put them. Will they very much be in that relegation scrap? I probably think so, but I think they probably have the nous over some of those more sort of chaotic clubs. But in terms of chaos levels, at Preston, they're still pretty high.
And then we move on to 17th. So the chaos level is going to continue with the teams we predict throughout this video. I have gone with play up Pompey play up. Henry and Will went with Stoke City. Jack went with Blackburn Rovers. Matthew has gone with Derby County. So for me, why do I think John Massinio's men are going to finish somewhat very similar to what they did last year? Because they've not got any worse in terms of quality of players. They haven't really got any better either. And they are they've proven to be a decent championship outfit. And when Fratton Park gets going, it can be a right horrible place to play at. Norwich had a 0-0 draw there, and it was a drub game of football. It was only one of 2 0-0 draws they had all season. I was there. But no, I think they are still a very good team with a very good manager, not, for this level. So, no, I think that they will be comfortable once again, but I don't expect them to exceed probably what a lot of people's expectations are of them.
Yeah, so I went for Stoke in 17th. I think obviously Mark Robbins has done an absolutely superb job, obviously previously at Coventry, but it just feels like, to me, especially Stoke's squad is still quite weak, and I still think he still needs quite a lot of help to try and get them probably pushing towards the top end of the table. I like what they've done in terms of defence. I think obviously adding that Ukrainian centre half, who I'm not going to pronounce, and I think he's a very, very good signing as well. And then you also add to it as well, I think Nathaniel Phillips as well. I think that's his name from Spurs, I think it is. No, sorry. Is it actually Phillips? I don't know. It's a Phillips centre-half from Stoke. From Spurs on loan. And I think he's a really, really good centre-half, I think, as well. And I think this will be his third year now at this level. So I can only really see him improving. Aaron Cresswell's quite a decent signing as well for this level, I think. So they've made a good start, Stoke, for me, but I still think they've got so much work still to do. In terms of Mubama as well, who they've signed, a player for me where it feels like he needs to kind of play football probably like 2 years ago. So I'll be very intrigued to see how he does as well. But I still think for me as Stoke, there's still so much work to do in that squad. Robbins can't produce magic overnight. And I'm a bit worried that they might sack him because they might expect too much from him with quite limited resources. But we shall see. Obviously, Stoke do tend to buy quite well in terms of how much money, in terms of how much funds they kind of use to buy players. But I'm just still not really convinced about their overall team and kind of how that can compete every week in quite a long season. So Stoke 17th for me.
Now, Derby's an interesting one for me because I originally had them higher up in the table. I didn't think they were going to finish 17th. Because, on paper, I sat there and thought, well, John Eustace, very good manager. I think they've got a very good attack already. And I think they've made some very good attacking moves in the transfer window so far. Patrick Aubameyang, the most recent one. But you've also got Ryan Brewster coming in, Andreas Weimann as well. And so I look at that and go, yeah, that would get me quite excited as a Derby fan. But I think there's one big flaw that I see with Derby that I sort of sit there and go, well, I want to put them higher, but I can't. And that's with the defence, which I'm not a big fan of. And I'm not a big fan of some of the signings they brought in. I mean, they brought in Danny Bath. Is that, no offence to Danny Bath, but is that really someone you want to bring in if you're trying to climb up the table and sort of regain that established championship level that you once had? You have Richard O'Donnell as well, keeper, 36 years old. I mean, I can't really see him playing, but still a 36-year-old backup keeper just doesn't really scream anything for me. Yeah, they've made 2 decent ones in Beck on loan from Liverpool and David Oso on loan from Palace. I do think they're 2 sort of bright young talents and they could really come in and do a decent job again for Derby, but I don't think they've done enough defensive-wise for me to legitimately be able to put them anywhere higher, and so I think 17th will be right for Derby.
Yeah, Blackburn. It's obviously quite controversial. I think they finished seventh. They just finished outside the playoffs. But obviously, most of that legwork was by John Eustace, who's obviously, like Matthew said, gone to Derby and poached two of their best players in Vyman and Bart, as we've just discussed. I will not discuss that any further. There's a lot of departures as well from Blackburn, obviously, notably Tyrese Dolan, who for some reason has gone to Barcelona, not Barcelona, Espanyol Barcelona, on a free. Yeah, I know, I don't get it either. The signings in haven't really been that inspiring either. But again, there's quality players in there. I really like Maktar Gay. I thought he's a really dangerous forward at championship level. Toddy has the odd good game here and there. But yeah, Valerian Ismail, does he scream, playoff quality again? Probably not. And like Will alluded to previously, whether there's weird, funky stuff going on in the background. There's a reason why John Eustace didn't want to stay. And I'm sure if there's weird funkiness going on, I'm sure that'll come out eventually. Maybe Todd will tell us the truth about Blackburn. Maybe you tell us the truth about Norwich first. Yeah, Blackburn.
They should probably tell Rangers fans the truth about them as well, with the way he's going.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's keep going in our table prediction. Up to 16th. I've gone with Derby County. Henry went with Bristol City. Will has gone with Wrexham. Jack, perhaps surprisingly, has gone with Birmingham City. And Matthew has gone with Blackburn Rovers. So I really echo a lot of what Matthew just said about Derby. They have got some brilliant attacking options. I really like the signing of Ajamang from Charlotte. He did really well under Dean Smith at Charlotte. Yes, Smith is still going, but no, they've got some really good attacking players. But as he mentioned, the defence is just not good enough to get you higher up the table than what you already were. That there is a lot of old heads there. Yes, you need a balance of experience and youth and players in their prime, but Derby really, it's almost like they've got the two extremes of both ends, and they haven't really got meeting in the middle really with their team. But no, I echo what Matthew says, and I haven't really got much more to add. So that's why I've put Derby 16th.
Yeah, I went for Wrexham 16th, really. Again, obviously, many people, obviously, which you guys have just alluded to about your personal thoughts about Danny Ward and Connor Cody, etc. I think it was needed, for Wrexham. They really needed to sign quite a big group of players, I think, as Jack said previously as well, most of their players probably are League One level. So it was very, very important that they tried to recruit well. I think they have so far to some extent. I do like the likes of Lewis O'Brien. I think he was probably one of the best midfielders, probably towards the back end of the season for Swansea. I thought he was great. Ryan Hardy gets you goals at this level as well. I like the goalkeeper as well, Okonkwo. I think he can definitely step up as well. So there's definitely some green shoots there for me with Wrexham. It's just whether Phil Parkinson can try and get this new squad ticking immediately. I'm still yet to be convinced they can, but I could easily be wrong. I could easily see Wrexham finishing 24th, 12th, as I say, or 16th, but I put, or even 6th. Just who knows? I think Wrexham for me is probably one of them where I feel like we'll know much more about them come the last day of August. So, but overall, I think there's definitely some talent there. It's just I don't know how regularly they can unlock it. But 16th, I think, will be a really good season for Wrexham.
Blackburn, the Rovers, if you will. Obviously finishing 7th, it's going to be. I think I've made Jack Wright break, ladies and gentlemen. But going from 7th to now 16th is a huge jump, I understand. But honestly, I'm not too convinced. I mean, we talked about it earlier with John Eustace jumping ship to Derby from Blackburn being a big reason for most of their success last year. And, his replacement, Valerie, Ishmael. I'm just going to call him that because I've butchered his first name, so I apologise. But I've never really been convinced with him. I don't think anyone has, and I know one or two Blackburn fans who, when he was appointed last season, was just going to go, oh, look, we can't believe we've got this guy as manager. Why do we have him as manager? And I completely understand it. And I look through their squad now, and I was actually just looking through the age of their squad, and most of their youth players have been imported in this transfer window. The only sort of player under 23 that's been at the club is Harry Leonard, who is a very good player for Blackburn last season, if my memory serves me correct. But if you're importing a lot of youth, it gives so much room for mistakes because you've got these young players who want to go out and do stuff, yes, but are they going to play the way you want to, especially if they're coming in from a different league? How are they going to adapt? If you bring in a sort of an older player from a different league, you could sort of expect in a way them to adapt quicker because obviously they've got more time under their boots. But with younger players, it's sort of this worry of if they don't adapt early, how is that going to affect them throughout the season or throughout their time at the club? And so that's really my big concern for Blackburn. I mean, I think their transfers are okay. There's no one here that really sort of screams out to me and says, oh, I'm a star sign and I'm going to do great things in this league this season. Maybe I'm wrong, but looking at everything, it just feels like Blackburn are playing a very risky game right now, and I'm not sure it's one that they're really going to win.
Well, all the promoted teams Wrexham I said to go down. Well, anyway, I've probably under-egged where a lot of people have thought Birmingham are going to finish. I just don't. I'm not really that invested. I'm not on the hype train that everyone else is on. Tom Brady and a lot of money. That doesn't mean anything. Money doesn't guarantee success. I mean, I look at their signings. Bright Osai Samuel, who was sort of average for QPR. Damari Gray, who has been bankrolled with loads of Saudi money and is probably not that bothered about playing football anymore. Furuhashi, who I think was at Celtic and looked really good, but then again, Ida is at Celtic and looks really good. So read into that what you will. Chris Davies as their manager, I had to look him up. I did because I obviously a very good promotion campaign with Birmingham, potentially a really good future up and coming high quality coach. Maybe the championship is beyond his level. I don't know. But they're a promoted team. Ultimately, they walked League One. J stands for. If they get loads of penalties this season, then they'll be fine. £12 million on a League One striker is a good investment, personally. Will they be in a relegation scrap? No. Will they be anywhere near the playoffs like everyone thinks they are? Absolutely not.
Well, it's an interesting take, we'll say the least, and we'll see where everyone else has put Birmingham. But we'll go up to 15th. I have gone with Blackburn, the Rovers, if you will. Henry and Matthew have both gone with Portsmouth. Will has gone with Swansea City, and Jack has gone with Derby County. While I've gone with Blackburn, excuse me, I'm going to sound like a broken record. I just echo exactly what Matthew said just before me. You had them a position lower. No, they've got a very good core there. They've got some very talented championship players who on their day can really cause a lot of issues. You look at the likes of Matt Targay, of Todd Cantwell, and, like Mark Leonard as well, or Harry Leonard rather. No, they've got some very good players there, but just can't really see them pushing high up the table this time around because there's a lot better quality of opposition that if they were in the league last season would have almost certainly have finished above Blackburn. So that's why I've had them drop quite a fair bit down the table. But on their day, they can probably surprise a lot of teams. They're a good side with a pretty all right manager at the level, but I just think it's just going to be another year of classic Blackburn and be almost smack bang in the middle.
Yeah, so I went for Swansea in 15th. To be honest with you, I'm quite sad about this prediction, really, because I feel like Swansea. I do like a lot about what Swansea have done this window so far, and I like the likes of Alan Shin, the manager, as well. I think he did a very, very underrated job, especially coming in after quite a tricky spell with Luke Williams. But I think Swansea, although 15th, I think does feel harsh. I could easily see probably from 15th to about 7th or 6th place. I think there's generally probably about 10, 11 teams who I can easily see making playoffs this season. I think you can all make a case for a lot of teams to get in there. But I put Swansea 15th. Although they've got some really, really nice players, like sort of Ethan Galbraith, great new signing for him, move for him, should I say? And then obviously alongside him, the likes of Franco midfield as well. And obviously, if you're going to look in the defensive line, the likes of Josh Key at right back, I think he's been a very, very good signing for them. I think he's got better and better. And as well, the likes of Ben Cabango as well, who's a very, very good, reliable centre half for this level as well. So they've got a lot of nice little players. It's just I don't know really if they've got a good enough squad to really, really compete towards the top end of the division. But I think again, the transfer window is open for about another 3-4 weeks, so it could easily fluctuate. So look, we'll see. I'm sorry, Swansea fans, if you're watching, because I really, really do like some of their players in their team, but I just think the teams above them are a bit stronger and got more going for them.
Portsmouth, a bit of a team that I don't really have much to say about, really. They've got a fairly strong core squad of players in there that they've managed to keep a majority of from last season as well. The only player from an outsider's perspective that I really sort of sit there and go, oh, they might miss him a bit is Adil Al-Shiche. I believe I'm saying that right, from Sunderland. His loan ended. He's gone back to Sunderland now. Actually, I think he's gone back on loan to Aberdeen now. But apart from that, there's no one really that I see that is going to be a big loss. Some okay signings, John Swift sort of being the most recognisable one from West Brom on a free. I think he'll do very well there. He just sort of feels like a Portsmouth signing. But really, not much to say. He's strong sort of core of players who I think some of them are starting to hit their sort of ceiling in terms of position in the Championship. So maybe that's the thing that you have to rotate over the next couple of seasons. But I think for this season, it's sort of just play and see how it goes and just make adjustments from there, really. I don't really think you're in too much concern of having a really bad season. And I don't really think you're in very good odds for having a really good season. So it's a decent finish, and you can really start to build from here for the next few seasons. But yeah, Portsmouth 15th, not really much to say from me.
I don't know if 15th for Derby is probably a good finish or not. I'd probably say, given their position, having last season just got promoted, that's probably stability of sorts. I mean, obviously we've said about John Eustace and the work that he did at Blackburn. I think the signings are really impressive. Obviously, Adjaman we've spoken about. They've just signed Ryan Brewster as well. Carlton Morris. That's a lot of strikers. I don't know how they're going to fit them all in. There's goals in that team. But I think, like Matthew said previously, it's that defence that's maybe a little bit questionable. But if they're willing to spend £6 million on a striker, with again 3 to 4 weeks left of the window, there's probably potential for them to look at papering up that leaky defence. But 15th mid-table for Derby. Yeah, I think that's probably a good finish.
Yeah. And now it's time to really get in the proper mid-table positions. It's up to 14th, where I've gone with Stoke City. Henry went with Blackburn. the Rovers, if you will. Will has gone with Middlesbrough, Jack has gone with Swansea, and Matthew has gone with Leicester City. A very interesting one. I can't wait to see what he's got to say about them. But for me, with Stoke City, I'll echo what everyone else has said about Stoke. I think I'm the person who's put them the highest out of everyone. I really like their signings. I think the signing of Cresswell is very good. As we know, Norwich were looking at him, but opted for Jeffrey Schlupp instead, which I think is probably the better option. But no, I think that they've made some good signings and they've got talented players. You know, Andre Vidigal is fantastic. Manhoef, who plays up top, is a good player. No, I do like Stoke's team. I think it is your sort of bang average, middle of the table side, which is exactly what they have been since relegation from the Premier League. I think that they're just going to have another year like that. Mark Robbins is a really good manager for this level. Will he still be their manager come the end of the season? Potentially not. We've got 10 months to wait and see on that. And no, but I think Stoke will be more than all right, and they've got enough to steer them a little bit higher up than what they were last campaign.
Yeah, so I've gone for Middlesbrough 14th, which is arguably maybe a bit surprising, but I just think their squad is just weaker than it was last season, really. Although Borough had a lot of injuries last season, and I think that's probably why they were probably a bit below expectations. But yeah, I just think their squad is much weaker. I'm not quite sure whether Rob Edwards is the perfect manager to try and replace Carrick. I think they've got a lot of technically based players at that club, and I think obviously Rob Edwards, although he did show a Forest Green that he can play in a bit more of a slow build-up method in that manner. Most of his football at Luton was very direct, and I got a feeling he might try to do something a bit similar with Borough, really. And I think I do like a lot of Borough's players, obviously the likes of Aidan Morris and Hayden Hackney. In that midfield too is a very, very good midfield partnership. But I just think defensively, and especially in the goalkeeper department, just a lot to be desired for, really. Really, really underwhelming. I think obviously there is some talent there. Just I'd say in the likes of Rav van der Berg, I think he's a very good player, but he might also go on obviously in this window as well. So I just worry a lot about Borough's defence, really. And obviously they did have Hayden Hackney. There was a lot of talk about him going to them down the road, but obviously he's now chose to stay. I wonder if Borough would have actually preferred to took the money, because I feel like their squad still needs quite a lot of work to be done with it. But obviously, they'll probably still try and find new ways to try and generate income. Obviously, there's a lot of talk about them going in for Chuba Akpom. That seems to be between them and Birmingham. That would be a great signing. Look, I could be so wrong again with Borough here. Again, I think I would probably have a much better idea about where they're at and how good they are come the start of September, really. But yeah, I think for now there's still so much work to be done for Borough, and I just think I'm not too sure whether Edwards' style actually complements their players too well. So I just thought mid-table is probably quite a safe bet.
Now, I had to watch a lot of Leicester last season as I was writing for a different publication, and I hated every single minute of it. So I'm going to try and explain quickly why I think Leicester are going to finish 14th, because I could probably do another podcast episode about them. First of all, they've made one signing, and that is 38-year-old Asmir Begovic. Second reason, I mean, they're without Jamie Vardy, the Leicester City legend. Big loss for them. I'd really say the only big loss, maybe Buonanotte, but I was the number one Buonanotte hater while he was at Leicester, so I see this as a bit of a win. The disconnect between the fans and the board and the players, all in tatters. That's a very complicated situation, but the fans, imagine what we had with Stuart Webber. I'd say around that sort of level, maybe a bit worse with them and John Rodkin, the director of football there. But you know, it's getting bad. It's really starting to cause this big divide between them, between everyone. Points deduction, fairly obvious. Points deduction bad, not points deduction good. Obviously, we're still waiting to find out the real damage of it. I don't know when that's going to be, but hopefully before the season, but I doubt it. And overall, I just think the squad of players that they have, especially in defence, isn't good enough for this league. Wout Faes, Yannick Vestergaard is very much a Hanley and Gibson type defence, if not worse. And I mean, they've got some very good attacking players in Mavididi and Fatawu, but you're also running with Jordan Ayew, Bobby T. Cordova-Reid, which is like, do you really want them? I mean, they were in a Prem team. I mean, do you even really want them in the Championship as well? Like, I don't know. I quite like Jordan Ayew in his role under Van Nistelrooy in the Prem, but that was very much a me thing. Also, the fact they've had to learn 4 completely different tactical styles in the past 2 seasons under Maresca, Cooper, Van Nistelrooy, and now Marty Cifuentes, who, yes, is a very good coach, and I do think he could take Leicester probably a bit higher than 14th. But then you've got to go with players, and some of the players, like Faes and Vestergaard, are known for being quite whingy. So it's really going to be interesting, I suppose. I don't feel that's the right word for me to say, to see how they get on, but I can just see a season of absolute pain and horror for them.
Should we talk about Swansea? Oh, that sounds positive for Leicester. Anyway, again, sort of a bit of a mid-table ploddle for them. Do I look at their signings and think that they're building for a playoff push? No. Ethan Galbraith from Leyton Orient, really, really good signing. Cameron Burgess from someone who them lot regarded as probably one of their better centre backs has gone on a free to Swansea. But talking of centre backs going on a free, hey up. Well, anyway, I think there's a lot of players from this list that they have left Swansea over the summer. I feel like a bit more of a rebuild is required if they're going to do anything fun or exciting. Alan Sheehan again, is he more sort of in a temporary capacity until someone bigger and more exciting comes along? Again, like with Chris Davies, very much untested with no championship experience apart from obviously the half of last season. Will that prove to be a really cunning managerial signing, or will it just be delaying until they get someone proper in? Obviously, they've got the big Luka Modric money and the big Snoop Dogg money as well. So I don't know when that lands. Will Swansea light it up this season? Will they be... I will actually stop right here for making any Snoop Dogg based puns. But yes, what was that? 14th? Swansea. Sorry, Swansea.
Let's move on to 13th. And I've gone with the Welsh team. I've gone with Wrexham, as did Henry. Will has gone with West Bromwich Albion. Jack has gone with Portsmouth. Matthew has gone with Millwall. Why have I gone with Wrexham as opposed to everyone else, as Jack looks at me like he wants to smack me round the face? I really like Wrexham signings. I think they're all brilliant for this level. The pair, well, Jack and Matthew were laughing at me. I think you were both being unbelievably silly. I think some of these signings made by Wrexham are absolutely brilliant. Windass on a free is a great bit of business. And you look at Danny Ward, I think he's actually a really good keeper for the Championship. Connor Cody, everyone can't believe what I'm saying, but this is my opinion, and I think it will come true. I think Connor Cody is a great signing. I really can't see how people don't think it is. He's such a veteran at centre half. Matthew's got up and walked off, but I cannot see why people think Wrexham won't do as well as expected, because they are going to. They are on such a massive ride of momentum, and they've made some really good incomings. I think Ryan Hardy as well is great for the level. I really do think that Matthew's got to pick you up of Danny Ward. I'm losing all composure, but no, I think who Wrexham have brought in and what they have got is very talented. They've kept a lot of the core who have taken them up through the Football League, and that sense of togetherness and the backing from very well-known and very wealthy owners, I think will really help them. Don't forget they still have a reported £10 million to spend on a striker, so they're not done yet, and there's still 3 weeks left of this window. They bring in the right striker, they'll fly in this division. I really don't see how people may have them lower than mid-table, because I think that's arguably a very realistic position for Wrexham.
Yeah, so I've gone for West Brom 30. Maybe controversial, but I do see West Brom having quite a similar year to what we actually had last year under JHT, really. Obviously, they're now under Ryan Mason, a manager which we don't know too much about. Obviously, he's got a fantastic pedigree being a coach at Spurs, but in terms of their plays and stuff like that, there is some excitement there. I love Tom Fellows. I think he's absolutely fantastic for this league. I wouldn't be surprised if he probably gets most assists in the league this season. He's absolutely brilliant at crossing the ball in from wide areas as well. And they've also got as well the likes of Isaac Price in midfield as well, who I thought had a very, very good first introduction into Championship football as well. So they've got some nice young players there, and they have got some nice experienced players. I just think it might take them a few years just to try and get into a very, very good position. Look, will Mason still be here come the end of the season? Who knows? But I think there might be a bit of evolution for West Brom to do at the minute. Obviously, the likes of Kyle Bartley, it's not going to be easy for him to play a very extravagant kind of way of football, really. So I just think be patient with Ryan Mason. He's very, very young, but I definitely do see some positives there. But I think 13th is kind of fair for where they are right now.
Freddie, we're having some words after the podcast. Millwall in 13th. It just feels like Millwall, doesn't it? I mean, they've always been fairly solid, and I think they do have a very solid defence, very good defence. But really, that's about it. Maybe I think they've got a decent midfield, a decent force up top, but really, just that's it. Because the big sort of leaving, or the big departure, I should say, Zion Fleming, which I feel like they will miss a lot. And I sort of look at the incomings. Josh Coburn, I think, will be a decent signing for them and a good replacement. But apart from that, there's no one really else. Maybe Stephen Bender from Fulham on loan could be very good for the Championship. But ultimately, Freddie, shush. Don't look at me like that. You said Danny Ward was going to be a good signing. Shush. But apart from that, there's nothing really else. I know this is a team that finished 8th last season, which is very good for them. And they did look quite good last season under Alex Neil. But I do think we'll have a bit of a drop-off this season and sort of go back to the mid-table where sort of Millwall have called home for so long.
We'll see. Anyway, Pompey. Yeah, I think we had this conversation last season, and we're probably looking at Portsmouth as being relegation candidates. Obviously had a pretty decent campaign last time out. Took 4 points off of us, and looked pretty good over both fixtures. I think obviously the stars like Josh Murphy, Colby Bishop, Callum Lang, they are now, Championship established quality players. I think the signing of John Swift, is he slightly past it? Maybe, but nonetheless, decent Championship quality. John Messinho is obviously one of the longest standing coaches in the division. I don't think he's one whose position will be in any jeopardy. I don't think they're quite ready for that illustrious playoff push. But again, I don't see them being in any trouble at all. But I like Portsmouth, big club, proper club. I'll be there. When is it? On the 12th or what is it? 16th? 16th. I'll be there.
I'll see you there as well, Jack.
And I'll see you there. Yeah, no, well, everyone here apart from Matthew will be there. But let's go to 12th, smack bang in the middle of the table, and this was the banker. Bristol City in 12th. Henry went with Derby County. Will went with Watford. Jack went with Leicester. Matthew went with QPR, who you'll remember Will had, I'm pretty sure, to get relegated. So, no, I'll go into why I think Bristol City are going back to mid-table. They lost Liam Manning. He was the sole reason, really, why they got so high up. His style of play suited the players perfectly, and he brought the best out of a pretty good bunch, but a team that never would have ever dreamed of being in the top six. And as shown in their playoff match against Sheffield United, they got torn apart in both legs. They got absolutely battered about the gaff. But no, I still think there is a lot of talent in that team, because, well, Liam Manning didn't take anyone off with him. They still have a lot of good players there. But I just think without Liam Manning at the helm, the wheels aren't going to come off as such, but they will just have a gradual slump down the table. But they'll end up where they always end up, and that's 12th in the league.
What do you do when you are not really sure about how a team's going to go in a season? You put them right in the middle just to be safe, and that's what I've done with Watford, really. Yeah, I'm just not sure how it's all going to kind of work, really. Obviously, a manager abroad, again, who we're not really too sure about. Will he last the season? Almost certainly not. But Watford do have quite a big diversity, really, I think, of really, really cool profiles in their team. I'm thinking the likes of Kwadu Bar's a really good attacking option. I'm so surprised as well they've kept Chuck Natadze. I thought he was probably one of the top 5 midfielders probably in the league last year. And I think they've got some real good depth in that midfield area as well, adding that a bit of Imran Louza, Kayembe as well. They've got some decent depth in some areas. It's just whether do they actually have enough firepower kind of within that depth for me. And I'm not quite sure they do. I think it'll be a very, very, very fun watch. They've got a lot of young kind of profiles there as well. I don't know if they'll spend too much more money, but I think they've got a really, really fun squad. And I could easily see them being really exciting to watch. And in the playoffs, I could easily see them struggling quite badly if their manager isn't too good. So I'm just unsure on Watford. I think they're going to be really, really fun to watch and entertaining, but I've no clue where they're going to finish. So I thought, put them 12th and be safe.
Yeah, QPR, kind of the same reasons why we'll put Watford here. Don't really know how they're going to finish. I mean, they finished 15th last season, which wasn't great, and I feel like they did underachieve in some capacity. Because I think when you look on paper, I see them as they've got a fairly decent squad, fairly decent mid-table squad. And I think they've definitely strengthened the attack with the likes of Karamoka Dembele coming in, with Kwame Poku coming in as well. Big sort of additions to the attack. Sorry, there we go. Take me a second. But big additions to the attack. And I feel like they could have some very good seasons. The only sort of big question mark for me is that new manager, because obviously Cifuentes going to Leicester, and they've had to get a new one. That new one is Julien Stéphan, who was last at Stade Rennais in, I believe that's Stade Rennais anyway, it is from France. So it is a big question mark on there. Obviously, Stade Rennais from France, bit of a charm in there. I think a lot of people know about Stade Rennais, decent mid-table side in Ligue 1. But I am maybe not expecting big things from them, but I'm expecting an improvement this season.
I don't think I'm going to be quite as exuberant as Matthew, but I do think there will be some alarm bells ringing, much like a lot of the things that Matthew has spoken about. The other side of the coin is that they have at the moment got some Championship decent quality players. Ollie Skip is still there. He might turn out in the Championship. He's won the Championship before, Matt. I'm not having any slander. I'm looking at silver linings here. I'm still putting them like 12th. It's still far lower than they should be.
I will just interrupt you and say Ollie Skip barely plays. I think he started 2 games last season, so I doubt he'll play again.
He might. Yeah, I mean, it's not looking good for Leicester. I mean, you have teams coming down from the Prem and you think, oh, banker for playoffs. I just can't see it. And I think just to, again, pad on to Matthew's point about the goals, a lack of Jamie Vardy and a potential for, I think Iheanacho's still there, possibly. Or is he gone?
He's gone. He's at Middlesbrough now, I believe.
I thought he was on loan. Okay.
No.
But Patson Daka, I know is definitely still there. And I remember him in the Championship. He couldn't hit a cow's backside with a banjo. Yeah, not a lot of quality in there. One signing so far. Whether they will have any money to spend on Championship players, who knows? El Canous, who was a relatively big signing for them, looks like he might be going to Leeds. But yeah, Mavididi, McAteer, Fatawu, if those wingers cook, then Leicester will still have some very good results. They're going to be one of the biggest clubs in the Championship, but I think if there's going to be fan unrest, then teams could nick points and nick wins at the King Power and just feed off that negative energy. So I don't think they'll go down, but very much clear of playoffs.
Anyway, let's get into the top half now of the predictions. We're up to 11th, where I have gone with Watford. Henry and Matthew went with Swansea City. Will has gone with Portsmouth. Jack has gone with Bristol City. So again, you could argue that was the banker. But no, I've gone with Watford in the middle of the table because, well, really the same reason as to why Will put QPR in the middle of the table. I don't really know how this is going to go for them. They've got a very talented team. They've got some cracking players. As mentioned, them being able to keep Chak Vitadze is fantastic. Of course, we're going to bring in Pape Diallo, but someone else wearing yellow did. Anyway, I'll move on. No, I think they've got a good side. They're certainly good enough to give it a bit of a good go, but they've not got the consistency in them. They probably will have 4 different managers again this season because that's the way Watford do things. If they start the season with 3 losses, the manager will be sacked. That's just how it works at Watford these days, and it always will. And I think that's maybe something that will maybe cost them again because the talent is there to give it a go and maybe get back in the Premiership around if it's not this season, maybe you give it a go and go again in the next. But their owners run the club so poorly. And I think that's what could cost them. And maybe they could sack the wrong manager maybe once or twice and they end up finishing around the middle of the table. But no, I think they've got talent, but they just haven't got the consistency required.
Yeah, I've gone for Portsmouth in 11th, and I'm just a massive John Mousinho fan. I think he's brilliant. I think he's so streetwise, and he knows when to kind of realise in a game where you've got to be a bit more pragmatic or when to be a bit more expressive. And I think he's a fantastic manager for this level. I think he's great as well at nurturing young talent as well, and also as well just kind of getting confidence back in key players. I'm thinking of the likes of Josh Murphy as a great example as well, Marlon Pack as well. I think the thing with Portsmouth for me is that they've always had a very, very good, strong, reliable core. The likes of Regan Paul and obviously Colby Bishop as well. Really, really good players in Portsmouth's team, really. And I really do trust those guys to do well again. And I think with those guys being so reliable, it kind of allows them to be a bit more creative in the transfer market. They've been very, very active in the abroad ones so far again this season as well. I'm thinking of the like of that Hungarian centre mid they signed. I can't remember his name for the life of me, as it's a very, very complicated surname. But they recruit really, really smartly in these overseas markets, and I think due to them having such a strong core, I think it can allow those new players to really, really settle in. And I think Portsmouth should be absolutely fine this season. I think they'll be very, very good at home. And I think they're definitely, for me, a definite wild card for playoffs. I think they're a very, very good side. And I just hope they can live up to my expectation.
Swansea in 11th. I do think that I might have been a bit too hopeful in putting them 11th because it's sort of been talked about Harry Darling going, one of the best centre-backs in the Championship, arguably, is a massive loss for them. And on paper, their squad does still look okay, and it still does look like a very mid-table squad. But we're sort of starting to verge on the upper mid-table type areas, and I wouldn't be surprised if come into the season I got this wrong. But there's still, like I say, a very good or a very decent mid-table side. Transfers as well. Some decent ones. It looks like Ethan Galbraith from Leyton Orient. I've heard some very good things about, and I do think he will perform for Swansea. Karen Burgess from who people rave about. So we'll see how that goes. And a few free ones as well, which I've heard some things about, some positive, some negative, but it's a big throw of the dice, especially with Andy Sheehan taking the head coach role. It's a big throw at the dice, and I feel like it's either going to really work out or just really not work out at all.
Yeah, I echo a lot of what Frederick said. If I'm a Bristol City fan and I've just been humiliated in the playoffs, potentially 3 games away from the Premier League, and I'm looking to the next summer and thinking, look, we did really well. We were really ambitious. Let's push on. Let's build on this and grow as a football club. So what do? We get rid of our head coach. We release our top scorer in Narky Wells, and we appoint Gerhard Struber, who was pretty good at Barnsley and quite all right at New York Red Bulls. But again, very, very good, talented championship level players. Obviously, we've spoken about the likes of Scott Twine, Max Bird, Jason Knight. The goals will come. Hopefully, they've got a little bit more of the transfer window and a few more sort of aces up their sleeve. Emil Rees from Preston, decent enough championship forward, but is he going to be up there in the Golden Boot race? No. I would have liked to have seen a bit more oomph from Bristol City. It feels like a backward step for them. And again, short of the playoffs for me.
Now into the top 10 of the championship as we go into upper mid-table and those teams who are going to miss out on playoffs, probably not by much. I have gone with Mill. Henry has gone with West Brom. Will's gone with Derby, the highest anyone has put them. Jack has gone with Middlesbrough, and Matthew goes with Bristol City. So why have I picked Millwall? They've really improved their team. I think this is arguably the best Millwall team they've had in my lifetime. There is so much talent there. I love Ivanovic up front. I think if Josh Sargent leaves Norwich City, he should be the player they look to. He is fantastic. 12 goals for a player who is 20 years old, his first ever year playing abroad from his native Serbia. And he only cost them £1 million, and they now want to sell him, I believe, for 12 million is the price tag they've put on him. He's brilliant. They've done really well to keep Tanganga. Still, I believe, got Joe Bryan, who's a brilliant left back for the championship. And the players they brought in are very good. I believe Alfie Doherty is pretty much a done deal, and he's going to come through the door. What a signing that is. It's amazing he even managed to stay at Luton for that long. I'm surprised that, well, it's probably because they got relegated again. He should have moved a bit earlier if he wanted to play higher up the footballing league. But no, that's a phenomenal signing. Millwall are going to have a very strong team. And even though I've put them 10th, I wouldn't be surprised if that was higher. They really are they're my dark horse this season, really, even though I have put them in 10th. So maybe I'm contradicting myself. But as I say, I wouldn't be surprised if that was higher. And if it was lower, I would certainly be surprised because I think the tools are there for Millwall to do very, very well.
Yep, I've gone for Derby in 10th, maybe quite surprisingly, but I just really love John Eustace. I think he's absolutely fantastic for this level. And I think in particular as well, what will definitely help him is that he's already got a really, really good connection with the fan base as well. And I think that could be very, very powerful. And Derby could be a very, very good home team this year as well. Coupled with that, I really, really like their squad as well. I think they've got a great midfield spine in there. The kind of tenacity of David Azoa and that Kenzo Guzman, but more importantly, Ebu Adams. I think Ebu Adams, for me, is probably one of the top midfielders in the league as well, albeit probably not so much on the ball, I'd say, but I think definitely kind of defensively and physical output, I think he's absolutely superb player for Derby. As well as that, you've got the reliability of Carlton Morris up there as well, albeit as well they have maybe splashed a bit of cash, maybe in Dean Smith's ex-striker as well. But all but seeing Dean Smith get a bit salty in a press conference, that was great viewing. So that has also probably reason why I put Derby a few more places higher, to be kind. But no, I'm really joking. I really like Derby's kind of starting 11. I think they've got a good group of 15 players there that can really push maybe a dark horse for playoffs as well. I just really like their team. Defensively, I do get your guys' points, but I still think the likes of Matt Clark, Danny Bass, and players like that, I still think they do provide some reliability in there as well. And I think those guys can try and real create like a really good spine for them as well, and that can allow the likes of Azoa and Guzman and obviously the likes of Carlton Morris as well to really try and express themselves as well. I'm just very fond of Derby's squads. Maybe they might need to buy some players out wide, but I think generally for me, I'm really keen on Derby this year. I think they're going to have a really good year, and it's mainly due to John Eustace. I think he's absolutely fantastic. So Derby 10th for me.
Yeah, Bristol City 10th. I kind of echo the points that both Freddie and Jack have made before me, but I think the one big thing that Jack said earlier about this being a backward step, I think is the main thing that I disagree with. Because yes, losing Liam Manning is a big loss to Bristol City. Naki Wells, yeah, top goal scorer last year, but he's 35. Not really someone who's going to be there for many more years, or probably playing football for many more years. So it's a sensible decision. Really, as much of a Bristol City legend as he is, with the amount of time he has been there. But I think they've been able to keep a lot of their sort of main sort of players. Main one I'm thinking of, Max O'Leary, who I really did think was going to leave at the end of the season. You know, brilliant goalkeeper. And I would have really liked to get him alongside with Manning, but when we bought him in. But, you know, he's made a decision to stay at Bristol City, which, you know, fair enough. But there's other players. Cameron Pring is someone who I quite like as well. Rob Dickey in defence. Their midfield, I think, is really strong. Their attack, there are going to be some questions about their attack, especially with a new manager, with a new way of playing, and also with all these new signings. But I do think they've made the right signings for their attack. Emil Reese is, in my eyes, a very good signing. Yu Hirakawa, I'm not going to lie, I don't know who he is, but I've heard some Bristol City fans say some decent things about him, so we'll have to see how that goes. Falima Yulu, I've heard some good things about as well. And now he's come back from loan. I think Bristol City fans are going to be... it's going to be interesting to see how he develops. You know, he's only 22. But I think it's going to be a very interesting season for Bristol City. And I don't really see this as a backward step, as we say. I feel like it's more of a staying in position and then learning how to take that next step forward instead of that backward step. But yeah, Bristol City 10th for me.
Yeah, I've gone for Borough in 10th. Rob Edwards, bless him, his career has swung from one end of the pendulum to the other. Really promising talent to have kind of just not kept loosened up in the Premier League, to have been ultimately the reason why they're relegated. And it's kind of, there's question marks as to who exactly is to blame, but whereabouts is his stock right now? Obviously Middlesbrough relieving Michael Carrick of his duties. That's a huge call after a number of years where, you feel like they were giving what was quite a young, promising coach time and space to build. And they've obviously decided to go in a different direction. Looking at their signings, Alfie Jones from Hull and a midfielder called Conte. I wonder how that'll go. That's interesting. But you look at the quality of the players like Finn Azaz, Tommy Conway, obviously players like Dale Fry, as well. They are upper end championship players, and on paper, this looks like a team that really could push for the playoffs. Again, someone like Morgan Whittaker, who when he went to Borough really went off the boil. If they can tap into the quality that he had when he was at Plymouth in his heyday, then he could be a really dangerous asset for them. Again, a long way to go in the window. They haven't done much business yet. If I was a Borough fan, I'd be begging for more. I'd be begging for a Ben Doak replacement, because I thought he was fantastic last campaign. But yeah, with Rob Edwards at the helm, it could spell playoffs. It really could. I do genuinely mean that, but I just get an icky vibe from Borough. I just think they're kind of going around in circles a little bit.
Yeah, and well, I'm now going to have to talk about Middlesbrough, because that's who I have put in 9th place. Henry has gone with Millwall, Jack's gone with QPR, and then Matthew's also gone for Middlesbrough. Will goes with Bristol City, but I really have no more to add as to what Jack has just said about Middlesbrough. It really could go either way. They've got a good manager in Rob Edwards, who, yes, his stock really has taken a bit of a toll over the last 12 months, but again, a team that have, as Jack has just said, a lot of really good upper echelon players in the Championship. It's just a case of, is it going to work for them? Because it seems like every year over the last sort of 2-3 seasons, not really every year, but Middlesbrough gets so close and then just completely fall apart at the end of the season, and they just curtail, which is phenomenal given the team that they have had over the last few years and even last season. But no, if they can get a fine tune out of a lot of those players, it could well be a lot higher. But I don't think it will go well for them, and I think they'll probably be right up there, but I think they'll fall off in the end, and they'll finish in 9th.
Yeah, I've gone for Bristol City. I believe, again, higher than you guys put them, similar to Derby as well. I just really like Gerhard Struber, really. He's had a lot of good success where he's been, obviously more so particularly at Barnsley as well. And I think his style of play is very intense style of play. I think he's got really, really good personnel to kind of match those, to kind of match that squad, if you will. And I think it's a very, very good appointment from Bristol City. Again, I'm going to talk about midfielders again for the 15th billionth time on MFW, but I think the double pivot of Jason Knight and Max Bird probably arguably the best pivot in the league, or certainly up there. I think both of those guys are brilliant. They've got great legs and they've both got good technical quality as well. I also think as well, Anderson Mehmeti and Scott Twine are very, very underrated. More so Mehmeti as well. I think he had an absolutely fantastic season for Bristol City last year, and I really think he could really kick on. As well as that, what Matt said about Hirakawa as well, very, very good player as well. So they've got a lot of players which align into Struber's style of play, and I think that could really, really catch fire for them. I do worry about their striker depth, as obviously you guys said as well. Naki Wells going is obviously a blow for him, as he did score quite a lot of goals. Obviously, Mayulu was a bit unproven last year, as well as Sinclair Armstrong. Sinclair Armstrong, more so in particular, has got some traits which probably do align with Struber's style of play, but I just still think with Bristol City, they've got a really good kind of core of like 11, 12 players, but they just need a bit more firepower for me. And I think that's probably why they'll be a bit short. But they've got a very, very good underrated squad, Bristol City, and I think again they'll have a very, very good campaign. But again, they'll just be a bit short because I think the 8 teams above them, which we haven't mentioned Norwich yet, which is again very interesting and exciting. But yeah, I think all those teams above them who I've kind of chosen anyway have more quality than them and more firepower. So I'm going to go for the Robins in 9th.
Yeah, Middlesbrough 9th. I feel like Freddie and Jack have really explained the worries and things about Middlesbrough really well. I do think they'll have a very slow start, and I can honestly see Rob Edwards being one of the first managers sacked this season. I'm not very high on Edwards at all. I'm not a fan of his style of play. I'm not really a fan of really much he does. So I think he got very lucky with Luton. And, well, you've seen how that's gone, haven't you? But I do think they'll start very slow. And, I think they'll bring in someone maybe around Christmas. Maybe Christmas is a bit of a late sort of prediction for early sackings. But, it'll be sort of just before Christmas, I reckon he could go, depending on results. And then they sort of, the climb from Middlesbrough really has to start there. I don't really think they'll get too much into playoffs. Maybe 1 or 2 weeks, there'll be people going, "Oh, Millwall do it?" And then they'll sort of fall back down a bit. So I think they're sort of stuck in a position there where they're just sort of not really fighting for anything. But yeah, I could very well be wrong. They do have a good squad, and it's definitely going to be interesting. But really not convinced about Rob Edwards.
I've been very ambitious with QPR. I think mostly just hearing about their new coach, was it Julian Stefan? I think QPR have got an absolute steal with this guy. It could be another Reggie Labrie regen. No. Yeah, I mean, you look at how Stade Rennes have been in Ligue 1. I swear they've qualified for Europe during his tenure. I'll need to look it up exactly, but I was looking up the quality of players that Rennes have produced. You look at the likes of Ousmane Dembele, Rafinha. There was another name, I can't remember what it was, but basically he has a very good track record of developing these world-class talents, and obviously, like you've all said, Poku and Dembele are two really good signings for this level. You've got players like Fry up front, Ilias Chair, again, really decent championship level players. I think it's just the quality of the coach. I think he will come in and really improve this QPR side. But I think, like you've all alluded to, I think that defence does need a little bit of TLC. Jimmy Dunn can't do it all on his own. Like Will has said, the goalkeeping position is kind of a little bit, it's not really a guaranteed number one in there. But yeah, I think, hopefully for them, Stefan looks like a really good steal, but he could end up being sacked by Halloween. Who knows? But I'm being really ambitious with QPR here.
Anyway, now we'll go into the teams that we think will just miss out but still do very well. We go into 8th place. I have gone with Leicester City. Will said we're not going to talk. We haven't spoke about Norwich yet. He's going to do some talking about them. He's actually got Norwich the lowest out of anyone. Henry went with Middlesbrough. Jack and Matthew have gone with a team who play in blue and white. Why have I gone with Leicester to not be in the top 6 after relegation? I think Matthew hit the nail on the head when he spoke about them a lot earlier. There is the big fan and board, the mistrust between the two. Of course, there's been a lot of new managers as of late, but I really like the appointment of Cifuentes, really good championship manager who did a lot of good things with Queen's Park Rangers. I think this move for him is right. It's a big step up. And he has got a pretty talented team. Yes, they've not exactly signed great players as such, but the team they still have at their disposal is more than capable of doing a very good job in the Championship. You look at, they'll have a double pivot of Winks and Skip. That's a pretty good Championship midfield. Still have Mads Hermansen who can be in goal. Yes, the defensive positions aren't all that great, and attacking wise, losing Vardy is big because he's a great character to have in the dressing room, and he's a good player, even at 38 years old for the Championship. But there's still a lot of talent there, and I think that will help them get in a decent position in the league. But I think a lot of the talent is aging and are getting past their peaks. I think that's what really will cost them. I think when they need to make changes for the sake of fitness, I think that will leave them behind a little bit because their depth in quality isn't the best. But you look at probably their best 11, maybe their best 14 players, they're pretty good for the Championship, but I don't think they'll get in the playoffs. I've gone with 8th place.
Yeah, so how do I get Norwich? How do I speak about Norwich for a minute without not speaking for about half an hour and doing a monologue? Good question, but I'm going to try and reduce down to a minute. I think how I feel about us so far this season is that the impression I get, I think we'll have quite a slow start. I still think there's still some time. I think we need to give the likes of Diallo and Kvaratskhelia all to settle in. And I think that might take some time for those guys just to kind of find some fluency and build some relationships. And I just think we've spent most of pre-season working on our defensive shape, and rightly so, because that was horrific last season, and that's fair by managing to do that, absolutely. But I just think in attack, I think we're always a side which kind of really entertains in the Championship, and I just worry whether it might be a bit of a kind of problematic year for us. I don't know if we'll kind of be as expansive and kind of showcase our qualities as much in front of goal. And I don't know why. I just feel like there might be a bit of negative kind of rumblings about the style of play, and that's kind of what I think is very important to kind of address, because it feels like whenever you speak about Norwich, style of play is so important, and trying to get the fans on board is very important as well. And I just think it might look a bit clunky for the first half of the season, and I don't know. Well, I know you can peak very, very late in the Championship, and that is great, but I still think as well, like we've literally had no core to our team last season, and we've pretty much signed a whole new starting 11 already. And of course, there's going to be question marks, and I just don't know whether they're all going to be absolutely brilliant. So that's my kind of overall consensus. Like, I'm not as confident about Norwich as I am about the other 7 teams above them, but I think we'll be better, and I do believe in Manning to come good. But I just worry about if we have a slow start, and the fans, because the fans will want to see us start strong after quite a poor season last year. I just worry how that's going to kind of plan out, especially if the pressure intensifies more on Manning, because this is a very big job for him. So that's my kind of overall thoughts in about a minute and a half. But we'll see what happens. But for me, there's a bit too many questions at the minute for me to commit Norwich for a playoff position. Sorry, guys.
Now, this is a team that I'm going to refer to as paracetamol, right? Because when you have a headache or a pain somewhere, you take a bit of paracetamol. Put that down, Jack. You take a bit of paracetamol, works really well, right? Catches the headache or whatever off guard, and sort of cures you within, I don't know, we'll say 4 or 5 hours, right? But if you take paracetamol every time you have a headache or every time you have a pain, its effectiveness goes down, and eventually it gets to a point where it doesn't really do anything. And this is where I feel like this team is what's going to happen this season. I mean, they're coming down from a frankly poor Prem campaign, let's be honest, where, yeah, no one really expected much of them, but, you know, people raved about them because they spent a load of money and they've got to be well. They've got to do well. But, you know, and they'll do it again. And I've never really, you know, first of all, I've never really rated Kieran McKenna as a good manager. Like, I've never really thought of him as I feel like he's a very much a money ball manager, and I feel like he's, you know, from League One all the way up, they just spent money to try and have the best chance, and it worked very well and caught teams off guard the first time. But, you know, I think you look at some of their signings this season. They're signing Ashley Young, David Button. These sort of have a combined age of 107. I could ask them about the Great Depression, and they'll give me an essay. Like, these aren't signings that you want in most leagues, let alone the Championship. And, you know, they're losing players all around. Delap, obviously. Hutchinson's going to look to go, but I never really rated Hutchinson anyway. He got outscored by Borja Sainz in one season. So, his entire career got outscored by Sainz in one season. So, but even then, either way, he's still not good. Axel Tuanzebe, Burgess, you know, Enciso as well. It doesn't fill me with anything, you know. And I just think, you know, people are going to place these guys like first or second, and I think that, and like, I don't understand it at all. I think they're just doing it because, well, last time they were in the Championship, they were first. It's like, yeah, or like they were second, cool, but they're not going to get anywhere near it this season. They're going to be off the pace, and I think they're just going to be poor. Like, I don't know what else to say.
Please, Jack, just try and be a bit more educated, if that's the right way of putting it, because that is a poor take from you, Matt, man. That's poor from you, buddy.
Here's my take. This isn't out of bitterness, by the way. It could very much be out of bitterness, but it isn't. I would argue that them lot, they've had their spine ripped out. They've lost Morsey in the middle, Delap up front, and Burgess at centre back, who a lot of them lot would argue is one of their better centre backs. A lot of people are saying that George Hurst is going to win the Golden Boot. I don't perhaps see that, considering he scored 16 goals for it.
Oh, come on, that's a yellow card. I've been getting much worse than that last season. There you go. That's it.
So,
come on, Freddie.
Obviously, what they tried to do in the top flight was build the best championship team possible, with the likes of Smodic, Philogene, Hutchinson, Jack Clark, as well. They've obviously still got Leif Davis, Alex Palmer, who's a half decent championship goalkeeper, but signing Cedric Kipre and Brunt, the left back. Someone pointed out that it's West Brom's back five from like 4 years ago. It really genuinely doesn't fill me with much excitement. I can totally get how people think these lot will be up there. I do also think that, obviously McKenna, he very much stuck with them lot when he could have gone to a much bigger team. There was obviously lots of rumours about him leaving. I still think someone like a Brentford will come in for him in about autumn time, when the Keith Andrews experiment falls flat on their face. I think there's going to be a lot of other suitors. I think if Vincent Kompany can go down and then get the Bayern Munich job, Kieran McKenna can very much move on to a much bigger, better club. And they haven't got Hayden Hackney, so that's funny. They all thought they were going to get him for a championship record fee. That's not going to happen. But yeah, they will have oodles of cash. The window is not over. And of course, we've got an East Anglian derby to look forward to. So, I think I'll be confident with this prediction, but I might be wrong. You didn't hear
We
that
might be wrong. We could be wrong about every single prediction for all we know. We have to wait 10 months to see. But let's go into 7th and the teams we think will just miss out on playoff football and potential automatic promotion. In 7th, I've gone with Birmingham City. Henry has gone with Southampton. Will has gone with Mill. Jack and Matthew both go with Watford. So Birmingham, they got a lot of money. They've got a very good team. But do I think they'll get in the top 6? No. And the only reason I think that is because depth in quality in other areas that isn't their attack isn't the best. They have got a fantastic attack. I think their best starting 11 is definitely a playoff contending team. They are fantastic, some of the players they've got. I mean, the signing of Kyogo is a massive statement, to come from a team who are playing in Europe every year in Celtic and winning trophies in any competition you play, to come to the Championship. That is a great bit of business, and other players of which brought in Tommy Doyle on loan. I cannot believe they've pulled that off. I genuinely cannot fathom how Tommy Doyle is going to be a Championship player. He is head and shoulders above this division, in my opinion. I think he shouldn't be anywhere near Championship, but no, they have got so much talent. James Beadle in goal is a pretty good signing as well. And, the owners, no surprise, are backing the manager. And I expect them to be just as good as a lot of people think, but I don't expect them to do what those lot did and maybe go up 2 divisions in one. And I think they'll just be outside, but that will be extremely tight.
Yep, I've gone for Mill in 7th, and what Freddie said earlier, I really, really do back him, because I think that is pretty much spot on from you there, Freddie. So I definitely do agree. I think with Millwall, I think the vibe there feels really good. I think they've got a really, really well balanced squad. There's got the likes of Alfie Doherty who as well, who they recently signed as well, and as well as that, they've kept some really, really good key some really, really good key players, which obviously was so good for them last year. I'm thinking obviously the likes of Ivanovic, although there are links with him to the Premier League, I think as well that I saw, as well as overseas. But I want to look more really into their defence. Really, I really like the core players there of Tanganga and Jake Cooper as well. I think those two are a very, very good pairing for this level. Add to that as well the likes of Tristan Crummer at right back. I think he's been absolutely brilliant, very underrated player there. And I just think as well they've got a real, real good aggressive midfield and a team really, which I think really resembles a real Mill kind of a Mill style of play really. And I think that'll definitely see them do very well this season. I think Alex Neil's a really good fit for them as well. So it just feels like Mill have got a lot of things going for them. They've got quite a settled team, and I think definitely if they can just keep it and maybe add one or two more, I think they could be in for a very, very good season. But I think it's also very important that they don't lose either Ivanovic or Tanganga, because I think those two players are critical. But if they keep them, they are definitely in with a shout at playoffs.
Yeah, I'm buying into the Watford stock here. I know you, Will and Freddie, and I believe Henry as well, put them fairly low down, and I kind of see where they're coming from, especially with the managerial worries, because obviously it's Watford. They hire so many managers and fire them all within 3 weeks, but I do think, I mean, in terms of their squad, this is probably the best Watford squad that they've had since, the Deulofeu and João Pedro days. I can't really think of a squad that's been better, especially with Cech Vidatse and especially now Nestor Irankunda from Bayern Munich, which I feel as though is one hell of a statement signing. He's 19. He is playing for Bayern. He's been playing for the Australian national team as well. Yeah, okay, Australian national team, you could say, is not very high quality, yes, but he's doing it at 19 still. I think it's still very much a incredible thing to be doing. And I do think some of their other signings as well have been quite good. Mark Bowler, I think, is meant to be very good. Nathan Baxter as well. Heard good things about him. Luca Kieramgard, not really sure how we're going to see, but usually when players come between, especially Udinese to Watford, they usually end up doing fairly well. But, and you boys were saying it's kind of surprising that they managed to keep the likes of, Cech Vidatse, who was one of the best players in the championship last year, full stop. And, you got the likes of Musa Sissoko there as well. Kwadwo Bar, who does have some potential to be a good player, didn't show up last year and did headbutt Emir Marcondes, but, stuff happens. But I do think this is a very good Watford squad, and I am playing a risky game, and I am buying into the stocks, and it could all come crashing down, and I look like an idiot. Maybe so. Maybe they'll sack the manager before the season starts this week. I don't know. But I think if they have some faith in him, give him time is the main thing, then I think Watford could really be playoff contenders. And I think, as I know I've put them 7th, but I think they would be very unlucky to miss out on playoffs this year.
I see this as leveling the playing field a little bit, because I think I put them bottom last season. See, Watford fans, I like you. I'm being nice to you now. I'm going the opposite end of the spectrum. So when you do go down, it's not my fault. No, I do. I'm actually on the same hype train as Matthew Saunders as well. I think I thought, Will Grant, you would have loved a Watford team that's full of really good, fantastic young stars. Arguably, a few rough diamonds in there, but I think, Irankunda, as Matthew has said, that could be championship signing of the season. I am astonished that they have managed to pull this off. Obviously, they wanted Diallo. I'm not going to say who's going to be better, but on paper, Watford look like they've got the better deal. Again, they could be defensively awful, shambolic in midfield, but if Irankunda is as good as his highlight reel is, it could be like a Borja Sainz situation where he could be banging in the goals and he could be just carrying Watford on his shoulders. But Paulo Petzalone, I don't need to know his name because he'll be gone by the end of September and probably replaced with Ruud van Nistelrooy. Let's say that feels like something Watford would do. Does it not? It does. But I also like Hector Cipriano on a free from Peterborough. I thought he's a really decent midfielder for them. Obviously, you've seen how someone like Harrison Burrows went from Peterborough up to the Championship, which Sheffield United did really well. Obviously, not directly comparable, but a decent player nonetheless. Good foundations, and I think I'm basically tipping this as kind of a shock. I don't think on paper they are conventionally someone who should be in that playoff mix, but I think they could be fun this season, and they probably won't finish bottom.
Well, they didn't finish bottom last year. They very much shocked you, but well, the least said about predictions last year, the better, really, if you go and have a look back at them. But anyway, into the playoffs. Let's have a look at 6th place. I have gone with West Bromwich Albion to go one better than last year and make it into the top 6. Henry reckons Watford will do it and get in the playoffs. Will's gone with Leicester. Jack's gone with Millwall. And Matthew goes with Norwich City. But West Brom to make top 6, I think, is fairly reasonable because they have been up and around it season upon season since they were relegated from the Premier League. They've always had a very good squad, one of the best in the division. They've just been so incredibly unlucky when it gets near the end. It's a bit like Middlesbrough. They get there and they stay there, and out of nowhere it all just comes crashing down right near the end. They really do get unlucky. Last season, they should have made the top 6, really. They got so unlucky not to do it again. But I like the appointment of Ryan Mason as manager. Of course, very untried as a head coach at Championship level or at any level, really. But no, I think it's a good appointment. And given the team they've got, I think they should get up in there. There's a lot of talent in that West Brom team. And I think this year will be the year that they do get in there. Do I expect them to go on and win the playoffs? Probably not, but I think they've got enough to be a top 6 team this year.
Yeah, I went for Leicester at 6. Maybe a bit controversial, I think, potentially, after what you guys have predicted them. And I'm probably listening to you guys now. I would probably put them a bit lower, actually. But I think why I put them pretty high, I just really do think they've probably got two probably are the best wingers in the league in Fatu and Mamadili. I think both of those guys are absolutely fantastic. When they're on fire, like we saw 2 years ago, they are literally unplayable. And I think knowing Cifuentes and what did at QPR, where he kind of set it up in quite a rigid manner and kind of hard to beat, and then he kind of relied on the star quality of like Ilias Chair example to kind of get them out of games and win them points. I could see a very, very similar approach with Leicester, really, where they just try and really utilise that quality of Mamadili and obviously as well Fatu. But they've also got some decent forward depth there as well. I think for this level, like sort of AU and Bobby Reid, I think are fine for this level championship-wise. I think they're more than okay. And I just the thing which I do worry about Leicester though, and I think it does remind me a little bit of Norwich is they've had a lot of that core there now, and they have experienced quite a bit of failure, and I'm just worried that might mean they might slip actually a bit further down than what I'm predicting. But I believe in Cifuentes' management abilities. I think he can make a very, very structured side, and I think he's definitely got 2-star players there to win them many games this season, and that is why I put them 6th. But I'm not too convinced.
Yeah, the big question for Norwich at the end of last season was what happens now. Obviously, no, we sat Johannes Torup, and it seemed like we were in a bit of a weird position, to say the least. But we signed Liam Manning, and I wasn't very convinced when we first signed him. I wasn't sure if he was the right guy. But over the course of this transfer window and our friendlies, I'm becoming quite convinced by him, especially the one yesterday against NAC Breda, the 2-0 win. Because I think Norwich have kept a lot of their sort of star players and players that we were worried about losing. Josh Sargent being the main one, but you got the likes of Marcelino Nunez as well. Kind of Jacob Wright, I suppose, but we ended up signing him. So it depends on how you want to see it. But, a lot of good players we've been able to keep from last season. And that's always going to be a positive. Obviously, no Boas Sainz, but towards that end of the season, especially after Christmas, he really started to struggle. So I think from the discourse, from what I've seen from a lot of Norwich fans, was that, yes, we would have liked to have him, but we're not too upset that he has gone. But as well, the recruitment that this transfer window has been top tier, especially with the defensive arrivals in the likes of Jakov Medic, Harry Darling as well, two very good centre-backs by the looks of it, Vladan Kovacevic, who looks to be a very good goalkeeper for this level, and a complete sort of change-up with Louis Molden and Daniel Grimshaw as backups as well. Jeffrey Schlupp, who seems to be going to that sort of backup left-back role, I want to say, but could be a starter, I'm not too sure. And obviously, we've got a few more defensive midfielder signings, Jacob Wright, Mirko Topic, just today. And I think Norwich are a team that look like they're going to do a lot better than they have done the previous 2-3 seasons in the Championship. Yeah, okay, will we go all the way and be title contenders? No, I don't think so. But it's definitely a team that will make playoffs, I feel, and definitely a team that I think will be competing for a good majority of the season.
Do they have a manager capable of winning the playoffs? Yes. Do they have decent strength in depth? Yes. Are they really annoying to play against? Yes. I think at Millwall for so many seasons they've kind of teased us by, we're going to make the playoffs, and then, no, we're not. We much prefer the Championship. I think this season they might actually, unfortunately, make it to the playoffs and make it to that Premier League they probably don't want to go to because they're much, they're a Championship club. Can you imagine them turning up to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium? But Freddie obviously alluded to it earlier. The signing of Doherty, fantastic at this level. Josh Coburn for $5 million. Millwall spending actual British money. Who would have heard it? But then you look at, like you said, Ivanovic, and then you add into that Macaulay Langstaff, who when he was at Notts County was banging in the goals. Again, spoilt for choice in the striker department. Japhet Tanganga and Jake Cooper as a centre-back partnership. Fantastic. It really is quite promising. And what I will say is that Millwall should be finishing in the playoffs, and they should be coming in sixth based on what's on paper and the caliber and ultimately their form at the end of the season when we turned up there, didn't we? We watched it with our own eyes and we were torn apart. Good on them for actually spending some big money. We maybe feared that they would be like a Preston or any other sort of lower Championship fodder, not being able to spend any sterlings at all, but they're giving it a go, and it's been really impressive from them this window. But if they don't make the playoffs, I won't be that surprised, perhaps.
Yeah, they're Norwich's first opponents of the season at Carrow Road in 6 days, so we're going to see how that goes. They can be annoying to play against, but how are Norwich going to fare? We'll have to wait and see on that one. But we'll move up into fifth as we go up the playoff places. I have gone with Coventry City, as has Will. Henry's backed Birmingham to be in the playoffs. Jack has gone with our beloved Norwich City. Matthew's gone with West Brom. Now, Coventry, they really should be in the playoffs because they're a great team. They have got so much talent. Really good team. Frank Lampard did a lot better than I thought he would when he came in at Coventry, but this is a solid Championship team who are easily capable of being in the playoffs. But I don't see them as part of this automatic race that everyone else does. I don't think they're that good enough yet, and I can think of better teams than them. So I don't think they're going to be in the automatic race. I feel like it will be 2 seasons ago when them lot and Leicester went up, and then you also had Leeds and Southampton. You had 4 runaways, and then there was 5th and 6th who were just sort of the best of the rest, and somehow we ended up in there. But no, I think Coventry will be solid and will make it, but I can't see how they're going to finish higher than 5th, because as my prediction, I can see 4 teams better than them going into this season. But anyway, that's what I think. I'll let my friend Will back it up, who even said last year about Coventry, they were his outside shout for automatic promotion.
Yeah, I'm with you, Freddie, actually, about Coventry and them just being a bit shy of autos for me. I think what I want to add as well about Coventry, I think that their midfield is fantastic. Their front three is, I think, as well, very, very good as well. I mean, the likes of Mason Clark, that's his name, yeah. Mason Clark, that's the one. I think he's honestly, he's probably got potential, probably to be the best player in the league this year. Yeah, I think he's that good. The likes of Hadji Wright are great as well. Then you've got a midfield spine of Ben Sheaf, Matt Grimes, and obviously as well, Josh Eccles as well. So there's a lot of really, really good players there. But I've always thought of Coventry for the last 2 seasons is they just need that like marquee player in centre half for me. I think although Bobby Thomas did show really good form under Frank Lampard towards the back end of the season, I'm just not quite convinced on the likes of Liam Kitchen and Joe Laspiere as well. I still think that they need probably one more body in that position really to really kick on. But the likes of Kane Kessler-Hayden as well at right, that's a very good signing as well. And I think what we've seen with Frank Lampard as well, we saw it actually last season in an absolute abundance, really. He's so good at creating those real winning streaks. And I think that probably might be implemented again this year. And I just don't know whether he's a kind of manager. I think at Derby it was quite similar as well, where he didn't really show that sustained level of performance all season. But when they were hot, they were hot. So I just think they might be a bit streaky at times, and I think that might be why they probably aren't in the top 2 conversation. But boy, they have got a great squad, and I think they're in with a real shout of definitely reaching the playoffs and maybe autos if they can really find that a bit of consistency.
Yeah, everything about West Brom this season just screams of championship playoffs, doesn't it? I mean, the squad in itself, Ryan Mason just screams of a manager who's always going to get in the playoffs but never win it. Maybe I'll be wrong, but you know, I struggle to find anywhere else to put them, to be fair, because yeah, they're a good squad and I definitely think they'll make playoffs, but just I don't see them going higher than 5th. I feel like if West Brom are always going to finish 5th or 6th in the playoffs, and you know, they haven't been too active in the transfer market. They've lost some fairly decent players. John Swift to Portsmouth, which is a big loss. Mason Holgate leaving for Everton at the end of his loan, which is a big loss. But then they go and sign Nat Phillips, who from Liverpool, who in my eyes I think will be an amazing signing for them, and he will fit them right down to the T, I think. But you know, ultimately, they've not lost many of their key players that they've relied on for so long. They've not really needed to buy too many players. They've kept this core, and it feels like now a lot of the players, are becoming the core. So maybe if a lot of them leave in a window, maybe there'll be some concerns there, but it's not going to be this season. And I think West Brom just feel perfectly like a 5th place team this season.
Where do I begin? I will keep this one brief. You're looking at fixing what the issues were last campaign. The issues last campaign were a leaky defence, abysmal away form, and spinelessness in the most difficult fixtures. We obviously don't know how the away form will be fixed. What we know is that the defence was the very first thing that we looked at to try and repair. Snaffling someone like Harry Darling on a free is incredible business. Signing a centre-back from Ajax is a statement of intent. Just the window in general has been an absolute pleasure to watch. Not only the quality, but in how quickly it's been achieved. I think by the start of August, I think we had signed 9 players. It really is a signal of how much of a rebuild was required. The head coach search wasn't too long and exhaustive. I think based on the candidates that were available, we probably have the right man based on where we finished last season. And yeah, credit has to go to Ben Napper and Lee Dunn. Clearly, the project that they are painting to these potential players is fantastic. If we're managing to pull them away from signing for Rangers, pull them away from signing for Watford, if we're managing to find sneaky release clauses in contracts, we are doing our homework very, very impressively. And ultimately, there's the direction is moving towards Norwich City not being pushovers anymore. There was a feeling last season of Norwich being far too feeble and just nonchalant. It feels like there is a conscious effort to make us nastier, make us trickier, more annoying, and ultimately this 5th place position does hinge on one particular curly-haired ginger American guy. If he stays, this 5th position could potentially be 4th, be 3rd, be 2nd. I think even without our star striker up front, I think we could give the playoffs a very good push with the players that we're signing. But in order for it to be a very, very good window and possibly one of the best windows in our recent history, if he stays, then yeah, fantastic. That's me done. Sorry.
Right. Now up to 4th. This is where you're looking at the proper teams now. I've gone with Norwich, as has Henry. Will and Matthew have gone with Birmingham City to have a cracking season. Jack's gone with West Brom. So Norwich, the head coach, brilliant appointment. In my eyes, you couldn't have got much better than Liam Manning given what he did in the season prior. All the signings, apart from probably Grimshaw and Molden, get in that first team. Maybe arguably Diallo. And if we do sign the Lincoln forward, they all get in that team. And that shows just how good that window has been. Norwich have made 10 signings now, including Toppit's 2 hours ago. Nearly all of them start. That shows the intent from Ben Napper and the rest of the backroom staff, and even Liam Manning, who, ultimately he has to have a say of who he wants. But this team has got so much potential in it. The talent that we now possess should be top 6. It should be. That is where this team aspires to be. It's where I think they should be. And I'm going to put my neck on the line. I don't see how they can't. I really, really don't, given what Norwich have got. I think this team, if it doesn't finish at least 6th, it's a failure. This team and the manager have so much ability and so much potential that I really can't see Norwich not being a playoff team. I really can't, because every player they've got in every position is quality. I can't believe we got Fisgorum for the price of 6.9 million. That is absurd. How on earth no one else found that is amazing. And I think he could be 10 times the player Borja Sainz was. I think given how incredible he was in goal scoring and providing assists, I think he'll be miles better than Borja Sainz. I may be completely wrong, but I think he'll be a much better player. If Sargent leaves, we've already seen we want £20 million. Think of what you can get for £20 million in terms of strikers. I already mentioned Ivanovic, but there's so many other players. If Sargent goes, yes, this team probably slips down the table, But with what they've got, Norwich should easily, and I mean easily, be in the top 6, and I think they'll be finishing in 4th.
Gosh, I'm excited to hear that, Freddie. That has actually made my night. So what an absolute great monologue from you there, buddy. Yes, Birmingham for me in 4th place. I'm just in football. I'm just a massive believer in momentum. I think it's one of those things which is so hard to try and obtain, and I think that's what Birmingham are going to have for me this season. I think they've got a great all-rounded squad. I really like that kind of core identity there in the likes of Itawa, the midfielder, the likes as well in centre half, the likes of Clara as well, and obviously Stansfield as well, who obviously did have a mixed campaign, but I think in the Championship, when there'll be a bit more room for him to kind of run in behind and be more of a threat, I think it'd be much more effective as well. Obviously, yes, they've signed very well, as Freddie said earlier. The signing of Tommy Doyle is absolutely incredible as well. So I just see a very good vibe around Birmingham right now, and I think that is something which is very priceless to really try and obtain. And I think they've got some quality players. They've got a style of play which we're all used to, and ready to really try and bring it into the Championship. And I just think they're going to approach this league in a very open-minded way and just have a real go for it. And I think that's going to be very priceless for them. And I just think they've got quality there to match that style of play. And I just think Birmingham are in a very good situation to really push the playoffs. I think they've got a really good squad.
Yeah, no, I fully agree with Will there. I think even if you take away these newer signings that they've made this season, I still genuinely believe Birmingham still have a good enough squad to survive, even if you take away those signings, and even be maybe a lower mid-table team. I could never really see Birmingham struggling this season, even if they didn't make the signings that they have done. But they've made those signings. They've brought in that Tommy Doyle. They've brought in that Kyogo Furuhashi. They brought in that bright Osei Samuel, who, from what I've heard, is a top player. And it just looks like every recipe for success. Aaron Cashin as well on loan this season. Everything just screams out that Birmingham are going to do the right thing. And, again, it is a bit Moneyball. I will admit I can't criticize someone like Kieran McKenna for it and then not criticize Birmingham for doing the same thing. So I will. It is a bit Moneyball, and I don't like that. I just don't like that way of running a football club and owning it and whatever. But it, as much as I hate to say it, it brings results, and I think me putting Birmingham here in 4th, I don't think they'll have what it takes to go up automatically, no, but I think these lot are probably one of the best contenders for winning the playoffs, and I do genuinely believe that, as much as I hate to say it from the Moneyball standard, this is a very good Championship squad, and I would struggle to see them any lower. And I genuinely believe, even if they finish like 5th or 6th, even if they still get the playoffs there, I think if that happens, it's still a little bit of a failure. Not a huge one, but if you finish 5th, anything lower than 4th, I feel like you've got to go, well, we could have done better than that. But yeah, Birmingham 4th just seems like an absolute lock for me.
Not for me, but anyway, West Brom in 4th. Absolutely nothing insightful or that exciting. Mostly just vibes, isn't it? They are one of the biggest clubs in the Championship. They haven't really devolved into the kind of crisis states that the likes of Stoke or Swansea have. They've remained, pretty static in kind of their pursuit of being in and around the playoffs. Ryan Mason, again, is one that really could go one way or the other. He could really be an inspired choice given his experience of working with star players at Tottenham, or he could be out of his own depth, as a first team coach. Nat Phillips, the centre-back signing, is an incredibly West Brom signing. Like Will said earlier, that winger Fellows. I think he's fantastic. Who was the striker? Josh Madger? It was Josh Madger, wasn't it? Yeah, I forgot his name all of a sudden. Yeah, I think he'll have a good season. I think he might be well up that Golden Boot race. It is a club that has, the infrastructure that would support a playoff push. I don't think they will make it to the final. I don't think they'll go up. But I think they will have a pretty decent season. They are an established championship name now. And again, with lots of time left in the window, they will have probably more time and money to sprinkle a bit more cash on some top players, which they can definitely pull to the club, just given the stature of the club that they are. But fourth for me, but it really could be much lower than that. But let's see.
Right, up into third, who we think is just going to miss out on automatic Premier League promotion. I've gone with them lot down the road. Henry has gone with Coventry. Will and Jack have gone for Sheffield United. Matthew has gone for Southampton. So why do I think those lot are just going to miss out and not do what they did last time? I just think there's better teams. I just think there is better squads than what they have. They've got a fantastic manager, of course, in Kieran McKenna, but I fear that, I fear, if anything, I relish in it. I think that he might tinker with his style of play after it got found out by a lot better teams. Do you start to doubt yourself as a manager in that sort of scenario? Do you think, right, well, I've just gotten so used to this not working. Do I try a little something else, or do I just stick with it because I know it worked last time? It may well be the case. It may well be something different. But although they've got a talented group of players, I just think the two sides I put above them simply have better and have proven to have had better in prior championship seasons. And well, to give it away in a way, those other two teams have been promoted before them lot were. So that's why I think a certain team in blue and white are just going to miss out.
Yeah, I've gone for Sheffield United in third. I really like their squad, especially now they've introduced Louis Barry on loan, and as well as that, Tyler Bindon as well from Reading as well. I know they've also tried to recruit overseas now, and kind of like they're kind of new, like their new data kind of approach now as well. So that's kind of interesting to see how that goes. But I like Ruben Sellers, and if you've got Gus Harmer still in your team, I find it absolutely incredible that there seems to have been no links to him whatsoever this window, and I was astonished by it, really. But yeah, I think he's probably the best, one of the best players in the league. So if you've got that to work with, and that core is still there, then I think you've got a really good chance. I think they probably need to improve on another defender. I don't think Jack Robinson's probably up to standard as well. So I like to see him get a bit more depth in the centre half role. But I just think they've got a really, really good squad for this level. It might take Sheffield United fans a bit of time to try and believe into Sellers' method after their kind of love romance with Chris Wilder. But I think generally in the end they should get there, to be honest, as they've got an absolutely great squad. Some great players in there, and I would definitely advise to keep a lookout for Andre Brooks and Sidney Peck this season, because I think they're going to have absolutely great campaigns. And yeah, for me, I just think there's two teams a bit better in quality than them, but I think they're going to have a really good year.
Now, if you'd have said that Southampton would have kept the majority of their key players at the end of last season when they were brutally relegated, I think everyone would have laughed at you. But they have kept so many of their key players. I mean, when you look at some of the players who went out, the only sort of big ones, Kamaldeen Sulemala, Onuachu, Ramsdale, and Carl Walker-Peters are probably the biggest ones, the biggest losses that I feel. But, you look at their squad, I mean, it's at least 3/4 of their squad are top championship players. And I would even go as far as to say they have probably the second best squad in the championship. So Matthew, why have you put them in third then and not second? And it's something that never really gets talked about in most people's predictions. And it definitely has been spoken about on here. Luck. which is a frivolous thing, but I feel like there will be one team, the team above them will get well, maybe not very lucky this season, but I think luck will be a big part to play in Southampton finishing third this season, and they'll get that tiniest bit of bad luck, and that will just put them down here. I reckon this will go to the final game of the season, and it will be a tough result, or the other team that I've put in second will just get that result or that goal that puts them above it. But genuinely, I talked about Birmingham going up, but if they're not going up, it seems like it's going to be one of Birmingham or Southampton to go up through the playoffs this season, as long as they both get there, of course. But I think Southampton are in a stage where you've got to be looking at them as one of the teams to beat. And it's just that, again, the only reason I put them in third, just that tiniest bit of bad luck throughout the season that will blunder their automatic promotion chances. But they have such a good chance of winning playoffs, so I wouldn't be too concerned anyway.
Yeah, Sheffield United, they were minutes from the Premier League, and Sunderland snatched it from them. We could have been talking about Sunderland in this prediction, but Sheffield United obviously fell very short. And I don't think, I think if you get to the playoff final and you narrowly miss out, it doesn't always mean that you collapse. It usually means that you go back and you build again. Obviously, no Chris Wilder. The Ruben Sellers appointment, to me, feels a little bit uninspired. I think, obviously, narrowly avoided relegation with Hull, and did, a sort of half decent job with Reading in League One. Is that the caliber of coach that, for a club the size of Sheffield United, who have ambitions of getting back to the Premier League, is that the type of coach that you would want to poach or want to appoint? I think I'm a little bit underwhelmed by that, but I also don't think it particularly matters. I think they have the quality, as Will has mentioned, Gustavo Harmer, but again, Cooper was one of the best goalkeepers in the division. Harrison Burrows was fantastic for them. Tyrese Campbell, fantastic goal scorer. I would just like to see them put a bit more oomph into their transfer business. Obviously, Louis Barry, fantastic signing. I think he will have an opportunity at championship level, hopefully if he stays injury free, and really push on for them. But yeah, I definitely think they have the money. I think they have the resources. I think if I was a Sheffield United fan, I would want to see them be a little bit more ambitious in the weeks to come. But that is a really decent championship squad. Another coach with possibly a little bit more on their CV, then they could be pushing up into that top two. But I just feel a little bit uninspired by Ruben Sellers.
Well, now we go in to the top two. We go to second, who we think is going to go up, but they're not going to win the title. So I have gone with Southampton. Henry went with Sheffield United. Will agrees with me with Southampton. But Matthew and Jack agree on Coventry City to go up back to the Premier League. For me in Southampton, I completely back really what Matthew said. I think that their squad is phenomenal. Even some of the players coming back from loan spells, Bren Brereton Diaz and Ronnie Edwards are coming back. Samuel Edoze as well is coming back from a loan, which they may not all end up staying and playing in the Championship. But if they do, they're great players to have. Even though they've only made two signings, both from the Bundesliga, I can only remember the name of one of them, and it's Kwashi, the young German centre-back they brought in. I think he's a top talent. And the players they've already got at their disposal are phenomenal. Tyler Dibbling is a great young talent. They've kept Adam Armstrong, who has proven he can be very, very bloody good in the Championship. No, their team is great, but for me, I just think one pips it. And if you figured it out, you'll know who I'm going to say in a couple of minutes' time. But I see no reason why Southampton don't go back up to the Premier League.
I absolutely agree, mate, Freddie, with what you said there with Southampton. Even if we do see movement of the likes of Matthias Fernandes leaving, or Ty Dibbling leaving, I still back them to recruit and replace those guys well, to be honest, because they are surrounded by real good core of players. Sorry, the likes of Flynn Downs, Taylor Howard-Bellis, kind of those players have been there and done it. Adam Armstrong as well. So I just think they've got a real good healthy squad makeup of players that are used to getting out of this division, and I really do trust Southampton's recruitment. Probably more so overseas as well, just to really help them out if they do see some big players go. But yeah, they've got so much quality, and I'd be very interested to see how they go under Will Still.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned it a lot with Southampton. Coventry, I think, will get lucky near the end of the season. They'll just get that bit of luck their way. But I don't want to talk about luck because I feel like I'll just repeat what I said with Southampton. But I mean, when you look at their squad, I mean, how can they not do well, especially with that midfield of Ben Sheaf, Matt Grimes, Rudoni, Eccles, Jamie Allen, Sakamoto? I mean, all of those, arguably one of the best midfielders in the championship, if not the best midfield in the championship, I feel. And even up top, Brandon Thomas Asante, class forward, as well as Ella Sims, Norman Bassett, another decent striker for them. It's you really struggle to poke holes through this team, and they haven't been very active for this transfer window, but they haven't needed to. They've not seen any huge players leave. They've not needed to replace anyone. Their biggest person they brought back is Carl Rushworth, back on loan from Brighton, which is an amazing signing on loan again. And it just feels like it's going to be another great season for Coventry. And I think after all those years with the Rico and not having a home and going from League 2 to Championship, they deserve this in a way, I feel. And Frank Lampard being the one to take him up as well. He's an amazing Championship manager, and people sort of laugh at him and say, oh, it's Frank Lampard, he was awful with Chelsea or whatever. But he has proven a few times now that he can handle it very well in the Championship. He did with Derby all those years ago. And he was unlucky not to get promoted there when in the playoff final. And he's done it with Coventry again. And I think he's a phenomenal Championship manager. And I struggle to see them finish lower than fourth again. But I think they will get that luck their way and they will get promoted this season.
I agree with a lot of what not only Matthew said. I obviously won't list all of the names of the fantastic players that Coventry City have because we've obviously gone through them all. I think it is just momentum. I think you're looking at a club that's been in playoff finals, in playoffs. They've come so close. They've retained the squad that they have. It is only a matter of time before luck goes their way, and you see it with teams where they've got so close. They've got so close, just been pipped at the post. With Frank Lampard, you see the form that Coventry had the moment he stepped through the door. Probably his only really poor result was that 2-1 at Carrow Road very early in his stewardship. But I think they are going to be a really tricky outfit. Again, one that if they were in the playoffs last season, you would think that they could maybe just sign one or two players just to tip them over the edge, just to give them that extra bit of quality. I still think they've got time and they've got the resources to do that. But yeah, I think they're going to be a really big force to reckon with. But I'm not going to give any spoilers. But Will, I'm just having a look at the teams that you've listed out. I haven't yet seen. I haven't yet seen. Do you forget about them, or
are you trying to get me in the book, Jack? Because I don't condone that.
I'm just good gamesmanship. Freddie, roll the screen.
Roll the VT.
So here we go then. If you've sat here and watched us for nearly 3 hours, fair play to you. Fair play to you. If you've skipped through, even fairer play. I think that's what I'd do. But if you figured it all out, you'll know who we've put. Here's our picks to win the league. I have gone with Sheffield United.
Whoa!
Matthew has gone with Sheffield United. Jack's gone with Southampton. Henry and Will have gone. They've gone with those lot. But I'll kick it all off. Why have I gone with Sheffield United? They've got the best team in the league. They should have gone up last season. They should have arguably won the league last season. I have no idea how they went so long with Leeds, swapping first and second, and finished third in a 2-horse race. It's baffling. They should have come up. I cannot believe they didn't. It's silly that team didn't come up. And Chris Wilder was given the boot. Ha! Ruben Selles was brought in, and I rate him very highly. I think he's a really, really good manager. I think it's a very good appointment. But that team, they've kept so much of the quality. It's a ridiculously good team, and I see no reason why Sheffield United don't win the division this season under Selles, and he's serenaded in the streets of Sheffield. But let's go on to Will, and he's picked our biggest rivals to win the lot.
Yeah, I have, with much regret and sadness. I'm truly sorry, because you won't find anyone else who hates them more than me. But I just can't. I just can't look past them, I'm afraid. I think their 8 or 9 attackers are frankly incredible for this league. Most of them have at least contributed 15 goal contributions when they were with them previously or other clubs. I look at Sammy Swodix. Obviously, Philogene Bedata also did it at Hull. Jack Clark, Sunderland, like that. Like, there are players there that were star players for their clubs before they came to who down the road. I'm trying so hard to do this without not trying to get a yellow card, but that's gonna be very, very difficult to do. Basically, what I want to say is I personally believe they've got the best squads in the league, especially in attack. Their attack is absolutely devastating, really, really is, and it's showcased in hardcore objective numbers as well. So, unfortunately, I think they will do it, but I'm hoping defensively they were obviously very fragile last season, so I'm hoping that can remain the case again. But as always, 16 years, God, it feels sweet.
Anyway, now my ears have stopped bleeding. Sheffield United, I think, easily have the best squad in the Championship. I mean, like I with Southampton, I said 3/4 of their team are top Championship players. With Sheffield United, I can't really see anyone that isn't. There might be 1 or 2, maybe, but like that's it. And like Freddie said, they should have been there last season. Maybe they should have been automatically promoted, and they bottled it to Burnley of all team. Bloomin' Burnley. But yeah, I mean, what a squad. I mean, like I feel like I could just say that a million times, and my point still wouldn't get across about how good their squad is. And in the Championship and in the transfer window, they've not really bought anyone. They don't need to. They've let a fair few players go, and a fair few of them I see as dead weight. Maybe 1 or 2 players they would have liked to keep. Brereton Diaz, maybe make that loan a permanent. I don't know, but even then, you have the replacements already there. I mean, Louis Barry, if he can stay healthy, will be a top player for this league. Tyler Binden, I think, will do very well this season as well. Ivan Gerbic, I don't know him, so I'm not going to say anything too much about him. But just like how can you not say this squad isn't going to finish top? And there's either them or most likely Southampton. I think Coventry will be a mainstay in second either way, but like Sheffield United, I mean, I can't get across. I wish. I don't think I've ever seen a squad as stacked as United's this season, and I think it's a lock for them to go up easily.
Yeah, let's round this off. It's been nearly 3 hours. If you're still watching, put down in the comments 16 years, 16 years. Anyway, Southampton will still, that is a phenomenal appointment by Southampton. The Championship is a very weird division where you can take a team that nearly didn't surpass Derby's points record and were by far one of the worst Premier League sides in its entirety. And now you're looking at it thinking, oh my word, they're definitely going to trounce the league. I will say with a pinch of salt, Southampton, the last team that I said would win the Championship, got relegated. So enjoy Exeter away next season, I guess. I don't know, I'm looking at this squad and I can see maybe 3, maybe even 4 contenders for the Golden Boot just in that front line alone. And that transfer window, there's a long way to go. I don't think the likes of Fernandes will stay. I don't think the likes of Dibbling will stay. If they do, they're going to be tricky. That is going to be trouble. I just think one of the most crucial positions for them to fix is that goalkeeping. I don't think Bazunu is a Championship quality goalkeeper, and Alex McCarthy is well past it and third keeper quality. Ramsdale's obviously gone. They'll surely have a bit of cash to splash. Go out and get someone, top Championship quality, lower Premier League quality. But Southampton in their roller coaster of relegations and promotions. Welcome to the club, boys. Oh, it's fun.
It is. It's great fun. And this video has been great fun, even if it's been a really, really long one. By far the longest video we've done, the longest podcast we've done. If you listen to it as well on Spotify, fair play, because it's a lot easier. Well, I say that when you've not got a visual thing in front of you, maybe it's a little bit more difficult. But there you have it. There is our 1 to 24 predictions for the Championship season to come. It all kicks off on Friday night when Birmingham host another team in blue and white at St Andrews. Norwich kick it off against Millwall. Keep your eyes peeled in the next 6 days because the season's back. There's going to be plenty of content for you all to watch here on the MFW channel. There'll be plenty of podcasts for you to listen to on the MFW Spotify account. But it's goodbye from us all for now. We'll see you for that next podcast. We'll see you for that next video. Don't go changing. 16 years. See you all very soon.
Yellow.